But
Hey, this is Moonlit, stopping by to remind all you Fringe FM listeners that there would be no Christmas without Joe Roop. He is the reason for the season, folks. Reverend Moon out. Now jingle my bell, darling. Ooh, that's the spot. Here comes the moon nog, babies. Ho, ho, ho.
From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. NASA's rover Curiosity fulfills a dream and drills into the Mars clay. There is a new hole on the red planet, and this one is extra special. The Curiosity rover is living its best life on Mars. NASA chose the Gale crater as the vehicle's stomping ground, in part because of the siren call of the crater's clay-bearing unit. The rover has now fully drilled into that area, nearly 7 years after landing on the red planet. Source, CNET.com. And grapes on Mars? Well, the nation of Georgia winemakers are aiming high. Georgia is immensely proud of its ancient winemaking tradition, claiming to have been the first nation to make wine, and now it wants to be the first to grow grapes on Mars. After NASA called for the public to contribute ideas for a sustained human presence on the red planet, a group of Georgians, researchers, and entrepreneurs got together to propel the country's winemaking into interplanetary level. Their project is called 9 Millennium, a reference to the Georgians' long history of winemaking. Source, phys.org. And a witness report to phantoms and monsters of a mini Mothman that strikes the windshield of a truck. The witness makes this statement. Last night while driving my semi, the weather was a sleet mixture and it was about 34 degrees in temperature. I was close to Wittenberg and got freaked out. It was dark outside and I was coming down the off-ramp to stop for a soda. Something fell out of the sky and it was really odd, and I can't quite get the image out of my mind. First off, let me say, it wasn't a bird or a bat, but this thing hit my window and it mostly splattered on it. I saw it plain as day stuck to my window. I described it as a small fairy, if you believe in fairies, or possibly a mini Mothman. It had small wings, and again, it wasn't a bat in the snow. It had long stretched out legs that came down below its body, and it had arms and fingers. I was wide awake and not drowsy. I was going to take a picture of it, but it slid off the window, leaving this massive gooey stain on my window, which took several attempts with my washer fluid to clean it up off the window. I remember it was all black, and I did not see any eyes. So let's get away from the weird and creepy and get into a stranger than fiction fun fact. Clouds can actually weigh more than 1 million pounds. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void, broadcasting to you all the way from a shack in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. And we are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting. That is the Fringe FM. Thank you for joining us tonight, wherever you're listening from, on this April 15th on into the 16th. If you can, give us a like on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I think our Facebook page is finally almost at 1,000 likes. We're just so close. So if you haven't done that, just go over and give us a like. Also, sign up to the newsletter. You can get your free books if you do that. We give out free books and giveaways, I think, once every 2 months. And some of the stuff we do here in the studio behind the scenes, it's kind of a fun thing to have. I wanted to mention, too, that I was just on the Cosmic Keys podcast. For all of you who don't know who that is, that's Dan and Scarlett's new podcast, who also are going to be broadcasting that podcast on the Fringe FM. But if you go check it out, it's called the Cosmic Keys. I was just on the last episode of that, and we had a really good time. We talked about a lot of stuff, astral travel, all the weird stuff in the South. So make sure you go check that out. Our website is lightingthevoid.com. If you find anything of value during, after, or whenever the show, please give us some support. There's a donate button there, as well as there's one on the Fringe FM. All right, so tonight we're going to do something completely different than what we've done. I've done this once, and it was a while back. And the reason why that I want to do this is because I feel like I got to. It's something I've always wanted to do, but I have to make sure that it's just interesting enough for you. And with the stuff happening with Notre Dame and the mosque and all this stuff, everybody's talking about that right now. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to offer you anything different or cover it. Although I will say Ryan Gable and Clyde Lewis are putting on one hell of a show, decoding all the symbolism of that right now. But tonight, what I wanted to do was talk to you about astrology, and astrology in a way that you've probably never heard of before. Now, this is a book that came out by Samael Aun Weor, who wrote a book called Practical Astrology. And inside this book, he talks about traveling through the stars. And I've hinted at this a little bit, and I want to get your feedback on this. So I'm not going to be going into this text to convince you that it's real. I don't know if it's real. But I will say that the occult symbolism inside this text is so deep. It's crazy. And the last time I talked about this guy, just real quick, let me tell you about why I'm doing this. Because later during the week, we're going to do a show with Miguel Connor, who hosts the show Aeon by Gnostic Radio. And in my opinion, really understands what Gnosticism is, about the demiurge and how the Old Testament was wrong. And we're not really wrong. It's just we're interpreting the story. And see, you can tell I don't know, because Gnosticism is confusing, right? There's so many different branches and interpretations of everything. And every time you hear the word Gnostic, you think you know what it means, but you really don't, because I don't. Most people I know, when I try to get them to explain it, they don't. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there is some profound wisdom in here. And it's 11 o'clock here in the natural state. And I'm looking at one hell of a beautiful gibbous moon, and I'm full of freaking energy right now. And I really think it's due. Matter of fact, I know it's due because it's the only variable that I've put into my system right now is this, the getthetea.com. I've done one cycle of this. I've been taking my, 8th element, which is my immune support, and just started the Allison Allison Advanced to get all the bad stuff out of my system. You guys that know me well know I got quite a bit of that. And I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm starting to feel a lot better. Like even this morning, I jumped out of bed today, and I'm not the kind of guy that jumps out of bed full of energy. But this stuff is awesome, man. Non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives. It literally is like the Ferrari of supplements. And you can actually have a chance to win some of this stuff if you go to the webinar, which is every 2 weeks. Our next one is at April the 29th at getthetea.com. Just put your name and email in there, and you can also win. Also, go download the Surfer Music app. Doesn't matter which device you got. Just go to surfr.fm, surfer.fm. God, you guys are going to think that I'm not being for real about this, but Saturday, I actually experienced what it would be like to live in the caveman era. And thank God I had the Surfer Music app. Whatever that storm was that came up from Louisiana, and I know Brett over in the Spreaker chat room might have caught some of this, but we caught one hell of a storm. It was Saturday all the way into Sunday morning, and I was so freaked out because I thought, man, I'm not going to get to watch the premiere of Game of Thrones. I've been waiting for 2 years to watch this, and we were in the dark out here. The entire grid where we were, it just went down. It went down from 3 o'clock in the afternoon all the way till 2 to 3 a.m. the next day. And so I went over to Dad's and I said, hey, Dad, download this app, the Surfer Music app. And it was weird. For some reason, the cell phone towers weren't even doing that well, you know? I don't like the lights that shine around. I mean, everything went down. And so, what is that? That's a faux pas there. Somebody hit a wrong button. I'll blame Moon for that, even though he's not here. Anyways, so I was about to play some Marvin Gaye. I think I hit a button on the keyboard here. But so I introduced him to this app, and he downloaded it, and he turned on the 70s things, and he's been listening to it ever since, and today's Monday, and he's still listening to the thing. That's how good the app is. You don't have to put your name, email, nothing, and it's got some of the best music on there. It's just like having a radio tuner, except it's all, it's all at the touch. So like if I go to 70s or whatever, it has a waterfall of songs, and really what it does is it just taps into, I think it's over 5,000 stations to be exact. And it taps into all these stations and then it categorizes them for you and you can just pick whatever. So it's kind of like having old school radio, but in a modern way. And most of you that have downloaded it, you know exactly what I'm talking about and you love it. So go check it out. Also keep that Ancient Life oil going too at ancientlifeoil.com. You really gear up with this stuff. I used to hear about it and think, but if you gear up with all this stuff and put it in your system, you're going to feel different. And I'm not afraid of the FDA or whatever. I'll tell you right now, this stuff is definitely helping me. It's giving me energy. I don't feel sick. What are they going to do? They're going to sue me for saying that stuff? Because that's what it's doing for me. But either way, if you want to look into that more and you aren't ready to get some, come over and just hang out with us in the webinar and you can ask questions and stuff. And Ronnie will be more than happy to oblige you. All right. So I wanted to get into this tonight. And this is something that I think about these types of things because we talk about UFOs a lot and we talk about astral travel. And I know that the occult has something to do with it. I know that consciousness travel has something to do with it. Back in the 40s and 50s and stuff, everybody talked about flying saucers and you don't really see that stuff anymore. Usually it's a light, right? It's some type of orange, amber light or something that looks like it's interfacing. And you can go to ufoseekers.com and look at that. If you go back down into the archives, you'll actually see where they caught something with a still photo that was passing through and moved into a mountain. If you go to their latest video, you can see freaking helicopters going after Tim. And hopefully he'll be able to come on the show this week at some point in time. I wanted to get him on to talk about that and what happened, because I know that kind of freaked him out a little bit. But also go check that out, youtube.com/UFO Seekers. And yeah, if you want to report a UFO or you got an active area, just call 661-UFO-7889. At any point in time, even if I'm going into this story or this text, if you want to call in, if you got something you want to chime in about it, you can call in. It's 1-800-588-0335. You can also text in at 501-777-5631. All right. So the thing about it is I think this guy might be onto something. And his name was Samael Aun Weor. Now, back in the day, he started this Gnostic movement, and he's got a ton of students even today. And according to this guy, Samael, he's the reincarnation of the fifth angel, Samael. And Samael's job is pretty much, I would say, the enforcer, ruled by Mars, and here to enforce what needs to be enforced, God's rule and the natural law, karma, things like that. The Jews have even called this guy Satan, okay? So, according to the Jews, if I get into this, you're going to think that they'll probably think I'm reading satanic text. But this is just an astrology book. But it's not an astrology book per se. If you get this book, it's called Practical Astrology by Samael Aun Weor. And he has pictures of the, like Aries, the ram, which is something that a lot of people are talking about tonight. The Hebrew correspondence, the tribe that it corresponds to, because you hear 12 tribes of Israel, 12 signs of the house. Now we're correlating between the Bible and looking into the esoteric meanings of some of this stuff. So the tribe is Benjamin. Benjamin corresponds to Aries, that tribe. The Hebrew letter is Aleph, and the planet is Mars. And the color or the air element is fire. And everybody, the only thing that we know is when we pick up the horoscope, it has a period of influence from March 21st to April 19th, right? Which I'm an Aries. In Western astrology, I'm an Aries, I guess. Now I'm going to read, I don't know if I want to read this part. All right, here we go. Let's just pass this. So, this is how this guy talks to people, his students. He doesn't address people as if he's a human. He addresses his students in his text as if he's an actual angel from God. And he says, "Beloved disciple, upon entering into these studies of esoteric astrology, I must give you a few prior instructions that will serve as a positive orientation for these classes. A heart temple, the secret dwelling of a sidereal genie, always exists within the stellar nucleus of any sidereal sun." Now, there's a lot of symbolism in here, so I can't slow down, but if you got any questions, I probably do too. So I'll repeat that. Always exists within a stellar nucleus of any sidereal sun, planet, every lunar satellite or comet. So there's always a heart temple, or a heart temple is the secret dwelling of a sidereal genie that always exists within the nucleus of a sun, a planet, a satellite, or a comet. The entire infinite is a system of hearts. This is why esoteric astrology is the religion of light and the heart. I've never heard of this stuff before either. I thought you might find it interesting. Each of our sidereal planets has its sidereal ruler. Gabriel is the ruler of the moon. Then Raphael is the ruler of Mercury. Uriel is the ruler of Venus. Michael is the ruler of the sun. And Samael is the ruler of Mars. See, I was right about that. Zachariel is the ruler of Jupiter. And Oriphiel is the ruler of Saturn. These are the seven spirits before the throne of God that is spoken about in Revelations. As we have all already stated, each one of them dwells within a heart temple. This is why esoteric astrology is the religion of light and love. These are the seven angels who among themselves distribute the governing of the world in seven different epochs. since the entire history of the world is summarized in 7 eras. The 7 planets are like the chords of a divine lyre where the word of the Creator resounds within its most ineffable melody. The entire solar system resembles the celestial body of a great being. This is called the Logos, or the word of the solar system, the ineffable one. From afar, the solar system resembles a human being walking through the ineffable infinite. Now, how the hell could, well, I guess he's an angel. He could probably see something like that. The 7 spirits before the throne are the rulers of the cosmic evolution of this solar system. They are, we might say, the ministers of the Logos. You know very well that every wheel has its axis. Therefore, you will now comprehend that the base of motion of every mass resides in its center. Mass can only be dominated from its center, and the center of all mass is the spirit. Therefore, we affirm that a heart temple exists within every sidereal center. I guess when he's saying sidereal, he's talking about things in space, things in the cosmos. This is the abode of the genie of that star. These celestial genii, or genii, are precisely the authentic governors of the infinite and the rulers and lords of our own human destinies. Many profane astrologers will tell you, for example, that Saturn squared with Mars brings a catastrophe, or that Venus opposite Mars brings failure in love, and etc. But these forecasts produced by profane astrology can fail, even when their mathematical calculations are exact, because the sidereal forces are not blind forces. These forces are precisely the rays of the planetary genie, and the logi, or the logoi, can modify all human events when the horoscope is full of squares and oppositions. Therefore, profane mathematical astrology is not exact, and consequently, I consider that one cannot be an authentic astrologer if one is not a theurgic alchemist. So this guy is Samael, the angel, or just this guy, however you want to look at him, is saying you can't be a real astrologer unless you're a theurgic alchemist. A theurgic alchemist is kind of like a ceremonial magician that, you know, or a mystic that's trying to ascend that way, in my opinion. I could be wrong, though. Iamblichus, the great theurgist, invoked the planetary genii and materialized them in the physical world in order to converse with them. This guy talked to genies from planets. It was through them that Iamblichus accomplished his great marvels. Theurgy, or divine magic, can only be practiced through the innermost of the theurgist, and the innermost is our spirit, our superior self, or our angel. I know Mary and I did a show about our holy guardian angel not too long ago, but it is also true that nature is a great alchemical laboratory where essences exist and where events of all types are combined. Within the schools of inner instruction, we learn these following golden rules. The line of the law is fought with the scale. When the inferior law is transcended by a superior law, the superior law washes away the inferior law. I don't know why that confused me, but it did. The absolute comprehension of these 2 golden rules allows us to neutralize the disastrous effects of any square or any opposition in our personal horoscope. So if you're an astrologer, then you might want to listen to this. This means that through these golden rules, we can destroy karma and triumph in life. Okay, cool. So let's learn about how to destroy karma then. Let's get on with it. Record these 2 golden rules properly within your mind, for I will teach you how to manipulate their formula in the upcoming text. This course of esoteric astrology will convert you into the theurgist and alchemist and will develop all of your occult powers. You will then know how to make yourself invisible. All right, so before I continue on, any of you people that are afraid of, you know, being labeled like a devil worshiper or whatever, I probably wouldn't listen to this anymore. The rest of you who are with me, who find this interesting, let's do it. I ain't scared. You can become invisible and know how to invoke and materialize the planetary gods in the physical world in order to converse with them. You will also learn how to destroy karmas and find out the secret art of succeeding in life through certain mysterious formula that will permit you to manipulate the sidereal rays for your own goals and thus help others. Oh boy, I'm stepping in it now. Another disclaimer here. This isn't what I believe. I just found this was interesting. It's kind of wild, though. Now, in order to finish with this preamble of present lesson, I will tell you that 2 columns exist at the gate. Now, most of you know, like if you're into Freemasonry, before I read this part, you've seen the 2 columns, right? You've seen the 2 pillars, and they're always called Jachin and Boaz, and the little Masons do the ritual, and they don't really know why they're doing it, but they know what it's called. The column at the right is called Jachin, and the left column is called Boaz. Good disciple, you must also know that near each column there is always a guardian. The guardian at the right column holds the scepter of justice in his hands, and the one on the left holds a book within his hands. Jachin and Boaz are the 2 passwords that will allow you to enter into the heart temple of any star in order to manipulate rays and provoke events within this physical world. That's funny. That is, I mean, if that's real, that's kind of cool, but it's still funny because I remember when I was going into Masonry, that was one of the things that you had to memorize. What's the password? Jachin and Boaz, and then spell it, right? I don't think they knew this. Let us now fully enter into our esoteric teachings of the constellation of Aries. This zodiacal sign governs the head, and it is the house of the warrior Mars. Iron is the metal, ruby is its stone, and fire is its nature. This is why the natives of Aries are of a warlike nature. They become strongly enraged, and since they possess great Martian energy, they feel capable of embarking on great undertakings that end up well. I don't feel full of rage. In general, they are not happy in love because they are prone to instability, which leads to displeasure and marital separations. Well, I can't really deny that one, can I? During this sign, the disciple has to charge his head with light in order to awaken his pituitary and pineal glands. All right. The power of clairvoyance resides within 2 small glands. These glands are joined by an extremely fine duct, which disappears in corpses after you die. Human beings can become clairvoyant when these 2 glands interchange their luminous auras. This is how they can perceive all of the marvels of the subtle world. This is how they will know all the secrets and thoughts of men and women, and will be able to see and talk to the sidereal gods, or the planetary gods, or whatever. Who is capable of hiding their secrets from someone like this? No one. An enlightened clairvoyant is full of light and fire. So he's teaching you how to get evil witch powers here, according to some of you. But this is kind of cool to me. It reads like fiction a little bit, though. Check this out. Here's the exercise. Some of you are going to do this, I know. The exercise of the sign are as follows. The disciple should sit in a comfortable chair and remain free from any thoughts for 5 minutes. Okay, so meditate for 5 minutes. Subsequently, the disciple should then pray to his innermost as follows. So, Father of mine, you who are my true being, I beg you transport yourself to the main star of the constellation of Aries, so that you will bring the principal genie of the constellation into the humble house, so that he may heal my brain and awaken all the occult powers in my head. Then, with interlaced hands over your heart, the disciple will make a small bow of the head, saluting the guardian at the right column, inhaling deeply as in a sigh, and immediately pronouncing the password Jachin. And immediately he will make an identical salute to the guardian on the left and pronounce the password Boaz. He will once again pray to the innermost, just like this. Father of mine, walk the 7 sacred steps inside towards the interior of the temple and kneel down at the feet of the principal genie of Aries, begging him to come and awaken the powers of my brain and to flood my head with light. Then the disciple pronounces the mantra Om, A-O-M is how he has it spelled. This mantra is pronounced properly by opening the mouth with the vowel A, rounding it off with the vowel O, and closing it with the letter M, which I'm not going to do for you, but all you guys know how to do that. I wonder if the Freemasons were actually signing up for this, and they just didn't know it. The mantra is pronounced 4 times with the intention of the light will flood the entire brain. Next, the disciple will stand up, extend his right hand forward, and move his head 7 times forward, 7 times backwards, 7 rotations to the right. What is this? And 7 rotations to the left, with the intention that the light floods and acts within all the glands of the brain. So he's got you moving your head around so you can get all that stuff in your brain. This is wild, man. The pineal gland is influenced by Mars and the pituitary gland by Venus. The pituitary produces sleepiness, and the pineal gland incites us to fight. In this manner, while Venus wants to sleep, Mars wants to continue fighting. During this sign, the disciple should vocalize the vowel I, or E, daily for 1 hour like this. E, as in tree. This vowel will cause your pineal gland to vibrate, and finally you will become clairvoyant. When developed, the pineal gland converts us into superhumans, and when atrophied, it converts us into idiots. The pineal gland is found developed within the chest, and the atrophied within the fornicators. The pineal gland is found developed within the chest, so people that don't have sex, I guess, have good pineal glands, and people that have a lot of sex or fornicate, their pineal glands are terrible. Okay? Therefore, good disciples, if you want to convert yourself into an angel, oh, here comes the Kool-Aid. You are totally prohibited to perform any types of coitus. Well, that's no fun. The pineal gland is the window of Brahma, an inexhaustible fountain for the magician. Thus, every night before going to bed, the disciple should practice this next exercise. Sit in a comfortable chair for half an hour. Close your eyes, remove all thoughts from your mind. Then imagine that fire from the constellation of Aries is descending from heaven and penetrating the ingenious columns through your pineal gland. The pineal gland is situated in the superior part of the brain, and the power to see the ultra of all things reside in it. If the disciple carries out the exercises of Aries with tenacity and consistency, he will become an enlightened clairvoyant. And during these exercises, the disciple will be assisted by the hierarchies of Aries, or the tribe of Benjamin. They will awaken his powers and heal his brain with special treatments. The disciple may also be able to use the powers of those hierarchies for the healing of others. Aries is the house of Mars, and Mars is the planet of war. The red hierarchy's Mars gave the astral body to human beings. Samael is the supreme chief of the astral plane. He and his warriors. We activate the powers of the astral body by meditating daily on the Tattva Tejas. The Tattva Tejas, or igneous ether, is the causorum of every flame, the cause of every flame. The astral plane is the ardent world. So what he's talking about there is those Tattva cards, which I have some. They have different cards that you're supposed to meditate on. So there you go. So you just do that. Yeah, why is sex always the problem? Yeah, that is funny, isn't it? Well, this is what confuses me, because this form, God, all right, so we're already at the bottom of the hour, but this form is the form of Gnosticism that they talk about, that is supposedly supposed to have to keep you from having an orgasm or whatever, so you can channel it and all that stuff, and then use tantric stuff. And then there's other forms of Gnostic that don't even talk about that stuff. So I find it all kind of weird, to be honest with you. But I thought that was pretty damn interesting, right? Because, you know, I know the Masons use those passwords. I know that the 12 tribes do kind of line up with the 12 zodiacal signs. And I know that esoteric and secret societies have to learn all of this stuff when they first start. Just memorizing passwords and handshakes and all this stuff. What if it was really just Samael? Or what if it really is ancient knowledge? Or what if it's all BS? I don't know. You tell me. We'll be right back.
This is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey guys, do you struggle with low testosterone levels? Symptoms of low testosterone affect your optimum functioning as a man, and this includes loss of motivation, fatigue, and lack of libido. Well, now there's a way to increase your testosterone levels and combat these symptoms, and do it naturally. How? It's called Red Stag for Men, the all-new male enhancement formula designed to do just that. Red Stag is formulated with some of the most frequently studied natural ingredients that are known to raise higher testosterone levels. Higher testosterone levels have been known to increase your drive, as well as reduce body fat, improve lean muscle mass, and boost your energy. Red Stag is taken once daily, yet works all day naturally. So go to myredstag.com right now and get your 60-day supply. Red Stag. Remember, take the red pill. Proven ingredients, proven performance. Go to myredstag.com right now. That's myredstag.com.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Duval, Lon Malo Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. So I want to make something clear here. This is something I'm going to do every now and then save the archives for the membership area, which is something somebody asked me to do. They were like, hey, I was thinking about doing this audio book, and they wanted to pay me to read it or whatever. And I was like, that's a lot of work. And I figured, well, if I'm going to do that, then I might as well do it for my listeners. Right. And so I don't, kind of like when we read the Emerald Tablet, when we were talking about that issue between the actual Tablet of Hermes and then the 13 Tablets of Thoth, talking about how they're two different texts, and Isaac Newton only translated the original tablet. We read that tablet and a lot of they were glad about it. And there's a lot of stuff out here, but I'm only going to do this when I find something super interesting, just to let you know. And I find this really interesting. Backstory on this Gnostic society. You can go to, I think it's GnosticTeachings.org, and that section of Gnosticism teaches all about this. And their whole belief system is based on that it's kind of gross, but when we have an orgasm and we spill the seed, we deplete our energy and we push ourselves away from becoming divine beings, which is the real story kind of Adam and Eve, and also what's wrong with the world, and it creates evil and it spawns more evil. And it's why you got all of these different porn sites where people are hanging from swings and stuff, because they're chasing a drug instead of harnessing their energy, because they can never get it back. That's kind of what I got from it. Now, if you guys got a better interpretation, I'd love to hear it. And then there's the other Gnostic story, which we're going to talk about later in this week, which I don't know if they're related, but I'm going to find out that the God of the Old Testament is really the evil God, or the demiurge. And the story's all backwards. So anyways, yeah, I thought that I probably should have said that before, but now I'm saying it now, so hopefully you get it. By the way, I want to tell you guys, Sunday night, for those of you that were in there when we did the Game of Thrones chat while we were watching that was really fun. So I'm going to keep doing that. And if you guys go in the chat room, you can go to, there's little hashtags in the fringe.fm/chat. It takes you to the Discord chat. And then there's a bunch of little bitty chat rooms on the left that have different subjects, and they're labeled by hashtags. Because I saw some of you got in there, but you never went to the actual party, man. You missed the party. And I don't want you to miss the party. So you go to the GOT watch party, riding dragons and stuff. That was pretty cool. Anyways, so we're moving on, right? The Taurus. Taurus corresponds to the tribe of Isaac, or Issachar. Also corresponds, everybody knows that it's from the 20th of April to the 20th of May, and it rules the neck, the nape, and the ears. And the metal it corresponds is with copper. The stone is the emerald and the agate. The perfume is aromatic herb. I guess that's kind of broad. The plant is birch. The flower is thorn. The planet is Venus. The color is green. The element is earth. The keyword is love. The day it rules over is Friday, and the angel that rules over is Uriel. And then they got a Vav for the Hebrew letter in there, but it corresponds to the tribe of Isaac, or Issachar. So here we go. If I probably scared all the Christians away, I'm sorry, but this stuff is kind of fun to read. It says, beloved disciple, in the previous lecture, I promised that I would give you the clues to 2 following golden rules. The lion of the law is fought with the scale. When an inferior law is transcended by a superior law, the superior law washes away the inferior law. I got a feeling he's going to keep saying that. The solution to these golden rules is found in a third, which states, perform good deeds, thus you will pay your debts. Imagine a scale on one side and lie your good deeds on the other side of your bad deeds, along with your corresponding karma. So in other words, it's the balance. I get it. All right. If the karmic side is tipped against you, then you will be able to fight it by placing more weight on the side of the good deeds. This is how you will tip the scale in your favor and thus wipe out your karma. A temple of the lords of karma exists in the subtle world, and the jackal is the great chief of these judges of destiny. Well, that kind of corresponds to some Egyptian stuff, don't it? This great being is the supreme judge of the cosmic tribunal. He has the appearance of a great man with the head of a jackal. And they show a picture of Anubis in here, kind of. When we have accumulated capital in the cosmic bank, so to speak, we pay our debts and we avoid pain. Those who live making new daily deposits to the cosmic bank will always have something with which to pay their old debts. One should always keep in mind the law of analogies and of correspondences on this matter about paying debts. Karmic analogies are fought with dharmic analogies. So karma and dharma, these two Sanskrit terms mean punishment and reward. In a more philosophical manner, we would say a bad consequence, or karma, is the outcome of a bad action, and good consequence, dharma, is the outcome of a good action. Thus, by modifying the causes, one modifies the effects. That's a Hermetic thing there. Duh. Since the effects are nothing more than causes reproduced in another form. Are you going to become a prisoner? Then give freedom to another. Is your son going to die? Then heal your fellow man. Are you in misery? Then give all that you have left to the hungry and sacrifice all your efforts in the favor of others. Beg in prayer to the lords of karma, and you will be heard. Do not forget, beloved disciple. That's not me saying this, by the way. If anybody's just tuning in, they're like, what's this? That's Samael. The Jews think this guy's Satan, I think. But that justice is the supreme mercy and mercilessness of the law. So I have already taught you that 2 golden rules, and I've explained to you how to wipe out karma. So there you go. In the following lessons, I will teach you how to manage the sidereal rays. Whoever hath, to him shall be given, and more they give, the more abundance they shall receive. This is the law. But those who do not work the law or do works of evil shall be victims of their own deeds. Ooh, scary. So why do people suffer? Why do they blaspheme against God if human suffering is not God's fault? We ourselves are the creators of our own destiny. Therefore, sanctify yourself. Beloved disciple, sanctify yourself. There are 3 eternal things in life: the law, nirvana, and space. Now let us start explaining the exercises of the constellation of Taurus. The cortege of the stars that form the constellation of Taurus is the house of Venus, the ineffable star of love, the dawn, and consequently, Taurus is the Venusian nature. Taurian people are of an amorous and Venusian nature. Due to this, when they are in love, they love much, and always pass through great deceptions. Tauran people are tame and industrious like the bull, that symbolize the group of stars, but at times they are also aggressive like the bull. They are tenacious and gluttonous, romantic and sensual. They love music, dance, and beauty. They have the ability for all types of manual arts. Taurus rules the larynx and the neck. The larynx is also a sexual uterus where the word is born. Whoa, what the hell was that? The larynx will be the creative sexual organ of the future divine humanity. The sexual fire of the Kundalini becomes creative through the word. In our books, The Perfect Matrimony, these are other books that Samael wrote, the angel that passed down to us, The Perfect Matrimony, The Revolution of Beelzebub, and the Treatise of Occult Medicine and Practical Magic, we have already told you extensively about the Kundalini and taught a great deal about the great arcanum or supreme secret for awakening of the sleeping Princess Kundalini. Okay, so I guess maybe we should have started with those. Anyways, now I'm going to keep going with this. The word is intimately related with the 4 elements of nature. This is why the initiates of the ancient temples and mystery schools were prohibited from talking about the primeval catastrophes of ancient Arcadia and feared that they would bring them back into existence. Ancient hierophants knew too well that the word is related to the 4 elements of nature, and that talking about a catastrophe is the same as evoking it again. For this reason, ancient initiates never spoke publicly about these archaic cataclysms. A hard word follows us and later falls upon him who pronounced it like a ray of vengeance. One does not only fornicate with the sexual act, fornication with the word is another type of fornication. That kind of reminds me of the people when he was talking about the people that fornicated with the mystery and revelations or whatever. Anyways, the improper use of words is also fornication. Fornication with the verb creates astral larvae and misfortunes. Astral larvae. I've heard of that before. It hurts to see how people abuse the word and fill their world with pain. Slander is the worst of all blasphemies. One must achieve the perfection of the word and language within oneself. One must comprehend the responsibility of the word. One must learn how to use the sexual creative organ of the word, the larynx. Larynx. Do you feel the need to learn how to use the word? Listen to me, disciple. I'm going to stop saying that because you guys are thinking that somebody that's tuning in is going to think I'm the one saying this. We, the members of the Sacred College of Initiates, can create anything with thought and materialize it into the word, into the world. Be careful in mentioning names and surnames because that is slander. If you are a philosopher, fight theories, but never speak about the private lives of its leaders. When one talks about a leader, talk about his doctrine, but never mention his private life. Each person is he or she is. No one should care about the private lives of others. To speak when one should keep silence is as bad as keeping silence when one should speak. I believe that. Sometimes to speak is a crime, and sometimes to be silent is also a crime. Amen to that as well. Amen Ra, I mean. Delinquent silences exist as well as words of infamy. One must talk when one must talk, and be silent when one must be silent. He just said that. One must achieve the perfection of the word within oneself. One must achieve the wisdom of the word within oneself. People have lost the notion of sincerity. Nowadays, human words do not carry the substance of sincerity, thus people suffer because of their lack of sincerity. Yeah, I'm with him so far. In this day and age, human words are full of falsehood and hypocrisy. Do you know what lying words are? Fraudulent words create monsters. Have you ever witnessed the birth of a monstrous child? That is, the karma of false word pronounced by such a soul in a previous life. We admire the substance of sincerity very much. A liar could never arrive at our white island. Sounds like Valhalla. In this course, we have arrived at the constellation of Taurus. This sign governs the neck, and new struggle between Venus and Mars is repeated here. Venus governs the thyroid gland, and Mars governs the parathyroid. It is an eternal struggle between Venus and Mars. While some glands produce saliva, others dry it up. The struggle takes place within our entire organism. Venus is related to love and Mars to war. The astrologer must learn how to use the twinkling of the stars. Do you know of any home where bitterness reigns? Do you want to serve them disinterestedly? Do you know of a wretched woman abandoned in misery by a suitor? Yeah, I know a few of those. Do you want to help her? Then listen to me. And I'm not going to say disciple, beloved, for I will teach you how to use the twinkling of Venus. Okay, here we go. Here's some more witchery. You ready? It's cool. Sit in a comfortable armchair and close your eyes. Put aside all earthly thoughts from your mind and focus on your internal master, praying just like this. Father of mine, who are my true being, I beg you with all my heart and with all my soul that you penetrate into the heart temple of the star of Venus, so that you may kneel at the feet of Uriel and ask him the following favor. And then here is where you ask for the favor of one's desires. Then the disciple mentally salutes the guardian at the right column. The disciple will take a deep breath and will pronounce the password Yakin, spelled Jachin. Subsequently, he will do the same with the guardian at the left column. First, the deep breath, and then pronounce the password Boaz. He will then pray to his internal master by beseeching him. My Lord, walk the 7 steps towards the interior of the temple in order to make the supplication. My Father, my Lord, my God. So I had no idea this stuff was going on. Like, I learned a lot of Masonic rituals when I got into Masonry, but if this is, and I know a bunch of Masons are like 32nd degree, whatever. They don't ever mention this stuff. But if this is really what all that stuff is hiding, wouldn't it be nice to know that up front? But once the supplication has been made, one asks Uriel with one's whole heart for a choir of angels in order to accomplish the work. The choir of angels create by singing. And the angel of Venus grants our petition. The choir of angels, who are his children and who lives with him in the temple of the nucleus of the star of Venus, will start to sing in the sacred language in order to perform the work we have asked. This is how the army of the word creates by means of the word. If any profane observer were to see the heavens at those moments, he would see the planet Venus shining and glowing in an intensified and rare manner. The observer would simply be amazed and would contemplate the original sparkle of Venus in those moments. The indigo-colored hierarchies of the star Venus gave the causal body or body of willpower to human beings. Now, what do they grant us when karma allows it? They grant us what we ask, when karma allows it. However, if our petition is not granted, then Uriel will show the disciple the clock of destiny. And in this case, we have no other option but to bow our head before the verdict of the law. In the world of this day and age, there exist a great number of schools that try to accomplish the same miracles by means of mental forces without taking into account at all the approval of the lords of destiny. This is simply pure, legitimate black magic. The Christ mind works well in accordance with the law. Black mental waves do not arrive where they are sent, because in the subtle world there exists a multitude of aerial elementals who trap and intercept the path of the black mental waves. In space, innumerable forces also exist which divert or disintegrate the destructive mental waves. Therefore, evil waves can only cause harm when the victim does not know how to love or forgive. Mental energy is absolutely deficient when it does not work with the might of the innermost. The magician utilizes mental energy but unites it with his innermost. This is the Christ mind. The magician works only with the divine powers of the inner angel and his Christ mind. The saintly masters of the White Brotherhood cooperate with the magician and the Christ mind. The sidereal genii perform their miracles with the ray of justice when the theurgist officiates on the altar of the Lion of the Law. Let us now enter into the exercise of Taurus. During the month, the following exercise is performed. Sit down in your armchair, close your eyes, and remove all your thoughts while becoming a little drowsy. Focus your mind inwardly towards your innermost and pray. Father of mine, now transport yourself to the principal star of Taurus and enter through the doors of the heart temple, making the salutes which you already know, and beg the sidereal genie and his angels of the star to come, to have compassion for me, so that they may prepare me and cure my larynx. I can't say that word. I feel like somebody slapped me in my mouth every time I try to say it. Then, already sleepy, the disciple must imagine that she accumulated light of her head descending now into her throat while she pronounces the word Om, or AOM. She imagines the light descending from her head into her throat with the vowel A. She will then imagine the light flooding her throat with the vowel O, so AO, and the disciple will exhale the breath as if expelling the refuse that resides in her throat with the vowel M. M's not a vowel. This mantra is pronounced 4 times. I have to warn you, though, that bowing along with the passwords Jachin and Boaz, as I described when I spoke about Venus, must be applied to all of the stars in the sky. So really, that Masonic Jachin and Boaz that they're teaching in Masons is so when you get to stars and you start traveling through stars, you know how to get through them or use them or whatever. Interesting. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just making a connection there. But therefore, the genie of the constellation of Taurus will personally come to awaken the powers of the larynx. And if the disciple has any laryngeal illness, she can ask the genie of Taurus to cure her, and they will do so. The disciple will also be able to take advantage of these powers in order to heal others. If you vocalize the vowel E, as in beg, for an hour, the vibratory sound of the vowel will awaken the power of the occult ear within us. The vowel E causes the thyroid gland, which is the center of the magical ear, to vibrate. The vowel E also develops clairvoyance of the mental body within us. This vowel makes the mental body vibrate and gives us conceptual synthesis and the power to penetrate into the intimate senses of the word. Who knew that this was what was going on in astrology, right? Look at Genevieve. No, this isn't a Dr. Seuss book. This is supposedly, it sounds like it though, doesn't it? But this is supposedly the secret of astrology. Practical astrology that is used by occultists. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I wonder if there really are beings that are traveling and using planets and all of this stuff, and we call them UFOs maybe. I don't know. Could be. Just a thought. But we'll go through the signs as much as we can tonight and take notes. If any of you guys actually try this and you have some kind of experience, though, I would like to know about it if you're brave enough. I, on the other hand, I don't think I'm brave enough to try this. That's just me, though. Anyways, we're at the top of the hour. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. We're going into practical astrology and the star traveling with the great angel Samael of Mars. Is he evil? Is he bad? Is this all just BS? Or is it 100% real? I don't know. Seems pretty cool, though. We'll be right back.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Get the Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health. Naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Did you know that qualified patients can access medical cannabis in all 50 states? Cannasense is a medical cannabis collective that helps patients in all 50 states gain access to cannabis medication. Cannasense does this with a streamlined process and strict compliance with the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Affordable Care Act, and the U.S. Constitution. It is important for each patient to understand the legalities involved, the costs, and the benefits of cannabis medication. Through truth, legalization, and education, the medical benefits of cannabis will supplant recreational perceptions, and the real vision for change will be realized. Let the people and their personal doctors take control of their medical cannabis decisions before the greed of big business takes over. The tipping point for change is today, and Cannasense is ready to lead the charge and enable legal access for all qualified patients to medical cannabis through its proven system. For more information, go to thefringe.fm/care or click the banner on the website today.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
If you are interested in occult subjects, psychic abilities, symbols, tarot, witchcraft, magic, or anything similarly related, my book Occult Arcana will provide you with a truly objective overview of these topics and more. Written in anything but modern language, Occult Arcana was compiled to help researchers balance their quest for a better understanding of the meanings of and in such studies. Occult Arcana is available in softcover and digital form from www.thesecretteachings.info. All copies can also be autographed if requested. That's Occult Arcana from www.thesecretteachings.info.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. At a little turn tonight, so we're going through this text of practical astrology that was written down to his Gnostic disciples, for his Gnostic disciples, by Samael Aun Weor, which is a guy that supposedly reincarnated the fifth angel, or Samael, the angel of Mars, and is teaching his disciples what all these secrets actually mean in occult symbolism and what it's really for, according to him. And we've went through Aries and Taurus, and we talked about which tribes of Israel they corresponded to, what they mean in the human body, and how and what they mean for as far as mentally and astrally goes. But right now, Ryan Gable has joined us to discuss what's going on in Israel, brother. What's going on? What's up with all the crazy stuff over there? I know you were just on Clyde Lewis's show talking about some symbols and symbology of the stuff. It was kind of wild, but I didn't get to catch it all because I had to start my show.
No, that's okay. You mean Al-Aqsa, the mosque?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, apparently Al-Aqsa, the prayer room, which is directly connected or is part of Solomon's stables underneath of the temple, Herod's temple, Solomon's temple, caught fire today and was burning at the same time as Notre Dame. Clyde and I broke down this incredible astrological symbolism along with things that are more historical in the sense of the Knights Templar, because as I'm sure you know, it was the 23rd Grand Master of the Knights Templar and the final Grand Master of the Knights Templar, Jacques de Molay, who was burned at the stake in front of Notre Dame Cathedral March 18th, 1314. And March 18th, it's interesting you just said Aries, because March 18th is right around the beginning of Aries. And then, of course, Jacques Molay took over the Knights Templar on April 20th of 1298. And April 20th is right around the start of the Beltane Festival, which culminates in Walpurgis Nacht, a German celebration primarily, but Walpurgis Night is May Day Eve, and that is the culmination of a fire festival. And so if you look at all of the symbolism relating to what happened at Notre Dame, April 15th, the sun is moving through Aries. I'm not a huge storehouse of knowledge for astrology, but this is what I read, that the sun moves through Aries. But either way, April 15th is still Aries. You have the ram, and Aries is Latin for the definition of ram. The French, this is what I found the most interesting, the French, seeing that Paris, Notre Dame, the French call Aries Beliar, Beliar, B-E-L-I-E-R. And so I thought of two things. I thought of liar, the father of lies, Satan, but I also thought of Bel. Bel is the Lord or the Master. And then you have the female component of Bel, which is Belit, which is lady or mistress, and it is Notre Dame Cathedral, which is Our Lady Cathedral. You also had Lady Diana, who died about 30 minutes away from Notre Dame Cathedral. She was killed with possibly and probably a baby in her womb of Egyptian royalty, Dodi Fade. And it's incredible that if you read something Clyde and I were talking about, Revelation chapter 12, it talks about the woman with the 12 stars on her head, which is the European Union, 12 stars, and the red dragon, which could be the queen, could be the monarchy, right? Responsible for the death of the child of this goddess, or Lady Diana, who was actually named after the goddess Diana. So you put all of this together and you follow the names through, and you find that Belial is a term in the Jewish and Christian texts for the devil, otherwise known as Baal, Moloch, for which children were sacrificed to. And to be more specific, this is from the Encyclopedia Britannica, where it really just explains all of this in incredible simplistic detail. There's a Celtic god of a very similar name called Belenus, Belenus, and Belenus is a Celtic god whose festival is May 1st. It is a great fire festival. And as I'm sure many of your listeners have heard, and of course my listeners have heard over many years, I say every year, pay attention to April into early May.
Yep. That's when all of the sacrifices and crazy stuff start happening.
You got it, brother. I looked that up one time and I thought, there's no way. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Waco, the BP oil spill, the Deepwater Horizon, the list goes on and on. The Lusitania set sail that provoked the entrance into World War I. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the death of Benito Mussolini, the death of Adolf Hitler. You look at all of these details, and you could say, sure, any of those historical dates could be selected for any time of the year. But so many of these deal with significant moving parts of history, and specifically things like Waco and the Deepwater Horizon, Oklahoma City as well, Columbine. They deal with the death of children or some kind of fire, some kind of explosion, some kind of burning, some kind of destruction. And it's no different. And I was sort of surprised. I forgot what the date was. I saw Kev Baker was talking about it on YouTube, and then he did it on his show tonight. And I saw Notre Dame burning, and I saw the spire collapse, kind of like the phallus entering into the woman, which is what the church is. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is so incredibly surreal. It actually reminds me of when I was in 5th grade and we watched the Twin Towers basically turn into powder. It was that surreal to me, Joe. Anyway,
I'll let you in on this I've talked to you about this off the air. It's not something that I really want to talk about on the air, but I will because it scares some people. But in my opinion, and the reason why I try to talk and educate about, at the very least, what these occultists are teaching, in my opinion, is there is truly a magical war going on for the soul. And what I mean by that is a good magician can tap into planetary energy certain times of the year, certain days of the week, certain hours, all of that stuff, certain elements, etc. Pretty much stack the magic and influence certain things, right? Influence things either for power, and they only do it for 2 reasons, right? One is for love and the other one is for power. Power is derived from fear, right? So it's a big, or lack of love, right? That's what power hungry people are based out of, is fear. They need more power. So magic is magic, occult law is law, the hermetic laws are the hermetic laws. Once these people understand this stuff and they understand the cosmos and how everything's kind of related finitely and infinitely, then they tap into that power and they can use it. And meanwhile, we just think a fire happened on the news or something. You see, like, they've been doing this stuff for a very long time.
Yeah, mentioning Lady Diana, there's a great example there with the birth of Prince William, where the birth was actually induced to coincide with a certain date. And that's a common thing, specifically with, I think, royalty, people of powerful families. They have children that they either attempt to conceive or they have their child birthed on a certain day because of the power of that day. Same thing with the names that are given, the significance of the names, the location they're born. Even if you don't believe that, there are people that are really, really powerful and beyond anything you could imagine in terms of wealth that do believe that.
Yeah.
And these days and these dates and times, Joe, they are very significant to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why some people say, well, you talk about UFOs and you talk about astral travel, but here lately you've talked about magic and occult quite a bit. Why? This is why. It's not to teach you to use it. It's to teach you to be aware of it. If you want to use it, that's fine. I hope you use it for good purposes, but to become aware of this thing that's been going on since the beginning of time. And it's written in all of our religions. It's buried. And the reason why a lot of it's buried, kind of like what you were talking about, the Knights Templars, back in the day when they started figuring out truths about this stuff, if they came out and spoke about it, they get burned at the stake. And eventually some of them got burned and killed anyways. And we don't know the whole story. We don't know what Knights did what and what Templars gave into what. We just know that it's going on. And I know Jim Mars was a real proficient at letting us in on some of that too. And so we're trying to keep this going, you know.
Jim Mars was the man. I'd highly recommend the book Rule by Secrecy, because he breaks this all down in really simplistic yet complex detail. Stuff that's really simple to understand, but there's so much complex information. It's really, really loaded. It's like a history book, but it's just an incredible amount of information. And he has a huge section in there about secret societies like the Knights Templar. And I always found it interesting that the Knights Templar, they get this, I think a lot of it's popular culture, like video games like Assassin's Creed, where you play as assassins, right? You know, actually there's a part of one of those games, it's the one I bought. I never really liked those games much. I liked the story. And one of them, you actually begin the game watching Jacques Molay be burned in front of Notre Dame Cathedral. And then you see the connection between the assassins and the Templars and orchestrating the French Revolution, and all that history is in that book by Jim Mars, but you can obviously find that other places. And that history of the Knights Templar, just like Freemasonry, and in relation to what you're saying about magic, people are so scared. Oh, the Knights Templar did this, the Masons did this, it's evil, it's demonic, it's Baphomet, it's a goat. Well, sure, but I think these kinds of things like Baphomet, for example, they're kind of like scarecrows. They scare people away who would abuse the knowledge that is preserved within, and people that are ready to receive it, they find that they have the Philosopher's Stone the whole time, and they're able to enter into the mysteries, and they're able to acquire this information and use it without harming other people. Other people, for example, might take this sacred knowledge, they might use those symbols, and they use it for promotion of very, very dark powers. And I think that's kind of the difference between what you're talking about tonight and what a lot of people might think about when they think of magic or occultism. And I think part of that is also very, very, very strategically intentional.
Right. What I'm trying to figure out, Ryan, is the backstory, which is the hardest part, right? Because a lot of occultism is based on Abrahamic religions and text. And when you look into this stuff, like a table of correspondences, you'll see planets relate to certain angels that relate to certain Hebrew letters. And you're like, okay, so there's something buried in here. And then when you really get into Gnosticism, they talk about the demiurge, or the god of the Old Testament, being the evil god. And then you get into aliens and they talk about, you know, like Stitching and stuff, and how there was this creator god who did this. And it kind of lines up a little bit, right? But if you're not careful, you'll put the pieces together too fast, and you might miss something and interpret an evil thing as good, or a good thing as evil. So that's why we got to be real careful about this. But the biggest thing is to know that it's really, something's really going on. There's something to all this, and we need to try to figure it out, and at the very least, become aware of it, so we don't become victims to it anymore.
Oh, certainly. That's my argument. I was thinking earlier today, before I saw this fire at Notre Dame, and especially after I saw it, that's when I noticed it, that there was something. I talked to Clyde about this. He said he felt the same thing. And I'm not saying this for show. I don't do that kind of thing. I sincerely, especially when I saw the fire there, and then at Al-Aqsa as well, there seems like there's something really heavy in the air. Watching that, again, like 9/11, there was just something wrong about that. Something almost supernatural, something dark, something disturbing, something magical, if you will. I find it interesting. I didn't get to mention this on the show with Clyde, but I did mention it to him off air before I said goodbye, that those two pillars, like the Twin Towers in New York, I did a show on that last year on the anniversary of 9/11, that those two towers also represent strength and beauty. And I mentioned on the show with him tonight that I think strength and beauty, you can find that at the core of Christianity and Islam and Judaism and other major and minor religions. And of course, there are perversions and there are extremists. But if you look at the infamous Albert Pike letter, he talked about using Zionism and Judaism, bringing that into conflict with the Islamic world to destroy both, and using Christianity and atheism, bringing them into conflict to destroy both, and destroying all major religions, including Catholicism, the universal religion, in order to bring in what he called the pure doctrine of Lucifer. And of course, you've broke that down before. But the point is, people I've seen already blaming the Muslims did this in Notre Dame. Well, hold on a second. Al-Aqsa is the third most holy site in Islam, and it is on fire too. I think that this is about bringing destruction to all of the beauty and the strength in all of the world religions, right, and all the sacred mysteries. And then they rebuild it, as they're going to. Macron already announced they're going to rebuild Notre Dame. Symbolically, they're going to rebuild this in a completely different fashion than was originally intended symbolically for the meaning of what that building represents, et cetera, et cetera.
We'll all be worshiping the Lord of Light, just like in Game of Thrones.
Lord of Light. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. You've got me there.
You got to get on. You got to get on it, man. How many people would love to listen Ryan pick apart that show? It would be awesome. You got to get it. Dude, I'll get you in on my HBO subscription. I've got like one more person I can give a login to and let you watch this thing.
The last time I had an HBO subscription, I just binge watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. But maybe I can watch this. So there's really that much information in there. You think that I would have a good time watching that?
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah. It's covered. And I tried to do it the other night, but there was so much that I was like, before I go down this road, I really need to, write everything down. And then I got to thinking, man, if Ryan saw this, he would really pick it apart. Yeah, there's a ton of occult symbolism in there. A ton. I think George R.R. Martin definitely, based a lot of his writings on this stuff. And they kind of like Tolkien. A lot of people think he's the next Tolkien. But there's a ton of stuff in there.
I was just thinking Tolkien myself. There are a lot of shows that I've never watched before. It's not because I don't want to watch them. I just think that when they're popular, it's just suck? No, not that they suck. There's just something kind of in my paranoia that I think if I watch it, I'm going to get sucked into the cult of it, not in a negative way. So I usually wait until things are...
Okay, well, that's a very valid fear. Because when I found out about Game of Thrones, I totally became a Game of Thrones nerd. Like I would wear a Game of Thrones hat right now if I had one. So I know what you're saying.
I just started watching, I watched it like 2 years ago, but I just kind of, for the first time, I've watched through all of Arrested Development. That was a cult show. People told me to watch for years. And now that's one of my favorite shows. So maybe I'll get to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's 8 seasons long, so each season is like a 10-hour movie. And then the later seasons are like only 6 hours, I think, are the last couple of seasons. But it's you'd have to watch a lot of it. But once you get the whole story together, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, there's every occult symbol in that story that you can possibly think of. Plus, it's HBO, so there's a lot of murder and killing and sex, too. And backstabbing.
That's the ice wall, right? You got an ice wall on that,
right? Yep, there's an ice wall in there. There's the Walking Dead. There's the Lord of Light, who's fighting the dead, so to speak, and the red priestesses, and the old gods versus the new god, which the new gods are, the seven spirits. Yeah.
Wow, there's out there. You got the red lady, the scarlet lady. You've got the seven divine rays of light. That sounds good.
Yeah, and they burn folks at the stake for sacrifice, and I'm not really giving away spoilers here. That's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this show.
It's the tip of the ice wall, Joe. You meant.
Yeah, right, for sure. But I can't wait. Like later after the show, probably after this show and your show, or tomorrow, I'll listen. I usually catch up on Clyde's show the next day on the podcast, so I can't wait to hear all. I know I was listening to some of it, but. I'll leave like that really picking apart that stuff to you because you're a lot better at it than me. I like to find these interesting information like this text we're going through tonight, which is kind of funny. It's a form of Gnosticism based on this guy named Samael Aun Weor, and he's talking about astrology and what it was really for. And basically, it's really for understanding the correspondences between the tribes of Israel and the signs of the zodiac, as well as how it corresponds to the human body and how to tap into divine and mystical powers and travel through the planets and the stars and stuff. Yeah, I don't think any of them and see, in Kabbalah, again, is at the base of this. It's like the structure or the tower behind all this, the software.
Yeah, I've incorporated all of that into my book, Occult Arcana, and it was really difficult initially for me, and I have to be completely honest, I don't really fully comprehend all of it or understand all of it, or probably even a small percentage of it. But I looked into all of that when I wrote Occult Arcana. I read The Mirror of Magic. I read the 3 of the 4 books on occult philosophy by Agrippa. And both of those authors, Kurt Seligman and Agrippa, explained those kinds of things. The relationship between the heavens and the earth, as above, so below, of course, the classic Hermetic axiom we talk about a lot. That stuff is just really fascinating. You know, the dark, depressing, heavy feeling I got today watching Notre Dame burn, kind of like I imagine watching like the Library of Alexandria burn or something like that. Just the loss of so much history and beautiful architecture and possibly knowledge that has been lost forever even.
Yeah.
I feel kind of a very light and fluffy and positive and energetic feeling when I think about the things that you just mentioned, like the correlation between the planets and the gods and the angels. And that to me is just the very opposite of that heavy oppression. It's like a really positive, uplifting kind of a thing that really, really inspires me and intrigues me. Do you get that feeling too?
Yeah, because I think this is why I'm interested in it. Number 1, aliens, UFOs. I want to know what that stuff is. Number 2, when I think about nature, the perfection of the human body, the perfection of the universe, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson can say whatever he wants, and he does say it all works perfectly. But I'm trying to find the reasons and the secret stuff of how it works. Like, I really believe that all those planets floating around in our solar system aren't just masses of bodies there, and they just happen to be there because some crazy physical cause and effect. That there's some underlying reason that they're there, and that reason taps into to create life somehow. And I've always thought that. I've always kind of felt that on the inside. And I'm trying to validate it. Not validate it as if I know it's right, because I could be wrong, but figure out why. Because everything else in the universe that I know of, even the freaking mosquitoes that are getting killed outside in that mosquito killer right now, have a reason. They have a purpose. So that's why I look into all of this stuff, man, because I think that it was hidden from us a long time ago.
When you say hidden, do you mean that in a nefarious way, or do you mean that in more of a benevolent way, or both?
Well, first, I think, and you know, I believe that I'm so anti-polar, it's crazy. So I believe in evolution and creation. You know, I believe in both, kind of. And I think that after evolving over time, there's no way that you can teach somebody that doesn't have a fully developed brain or anything any secrets of the universe. It takes probably millions of years for them to evolve into their brain so they can get better to understand things. And then the mysteries start to be revealed, and hopefully we don't get wiped out before we start understanding everything. So I believe the first reasons why things were told in nursery rhymes and in analogies and all that stuff, like Christ said in the New Testament, was because people just couldn't wrap their heads around it. What inadvertently happens, though, from evil people that live lives based in fear and power is that they take advantage of those situations for certain reasons, right? And that's kind of what happens. So you start a religion, or you keep the knowledge to yourself or whatever, and then on and on it goes, you know?
You got it. And there are reasons, I think, that, for example, you have a story of the Philosopher's Stone. I love talking about the Philosopher's Stone. And I think that there are probably, if there are 8 billion people on this planet, there are 8 billion ways to view it. However, I think that the Philosopher's Stone is something that we can actually acquire. But when I say actually acquire it, here come those 8 billion perspectives, or 8 billion minus mine, where people think that it's a physical stone, that it's something like Harry Potter, you have it in your back pocket. but it's symbolic of something that you acquire more spiritually. One of the things that I mention in my book, Occult Arcana, and I was going to mention it if we had enough time on Ground Zero tonight, but we ran out, is the story of Beauty and the Beast. And the beast is our animal intuition, our animal desire, our animal instinct. The beast, though, in that story was actually a prince. And that prince in the spiritual world was lowered to that of an animal in the material world. And so only through beauty, harmony, Bell, Beauty and the Beast, Bell, music, harmony, was the beast able to overcome the animal instinct, the animal desires, and once again find himself in the place of divinity, or some people might call it source, for where he came from. And the symbol in that movie, Joe, that is slowly decaying, is the rose, the red rose of initiation, the rose on the cross, the blood cross of Christ, the red cross, the rosy crucians. When we watch things like that, we read things like that, I have to be honest, as someone who is viewed as kind of sort of an expert on the occult. It wasn't until like 3 years ago, somebody that I was friends with, they were watching Beauty and the Beast, that really terrible live action one. I thought it was bad. And I walked by the television and I said, wait a minute, back that up. And they rewound it, and I just looked at the rose in the glass container, and I thought, oh my God, I get it. I understand Beauty and the Beast now. It has nothing to do with just this like love story. It's a beautiful, incredible story of alchemy and transformation and occultism, and it's preserved in that story, and it's passed down to generations. It's turned into these Disney films and Disney stories, and it passes down the sacred information to kids, but we just see it as a story, and that's how it's preserved in a very positive way for future generations.
You think about that, right? So have you read Manly P. Hall's What the Wisdom Expects from Its Disciples, right? The one thing he says in there, he says, no matter how many things get destroyed or how many times that sacred knowledge is hidden or passed away or destroyed, it's truly remarkable how it goes through the ages regardless, right? So there is something behind the scenes that's trying to pass this wisdom along to everybody. And I believe it does it through art. It's through spirit a lot of times. So you can't really stop it, even though the power hungry, they tend to try to stop it and keep it for themselves.
Yeah, and you don't want to put something so sacred and so powerful directly in the hands of people who are not perhaps mature enough to comprehend its power and use it for the benefit of other people, instead of using it for the benefit of self and causing destruction, which is ultimately what would happen with those kinds of concepts and secret, sacred stories and that secret knowledge, if you will, whatever you want to call it. There are so many different things. If it was to get into the hands of people who would abuse it, and that's why things were concealed in parables and metaphor and symbols and stories, so that it wouldn't be destroyed by people that were jealous or people that were fearful of it. And it would be passed down from generation to generation to generation, and nobody would see it as a threat because it's just a kid's story. It's just a movie. It's just something that you read in a book, and that's it.
I believe in karma, too. Just like in this book, this so-called angel, which I don't know. I'm saying so-called because don't really know, but is talking about karma and
alleged.
Alleged. There you go. And cause and effect. Everything that has happened is cause and effect. And I hate to use this example. Look at Alex Jones, right? Alex Jones has got probably one of the hottest talk shows on the planet, and he has to keep the hype going. He's got to keep the red face and the yelling going. And there's been a lot of truth that he has talked about, but there's also been stuff that has been kind of, I guess you could say, hyped up in a way where it's like he has to be the number one guy. He's ratings obsessed. It's obvious. You can tell that because that's all he talks about with Rogan and stuff, to where he's got to keep the hype going. And eventually he ends up hurting real people. And now he's sitting in a courtroom, just getting blasted on. Will he survive it? Well, that depends. And according to the text I'm reading tonight, that depends on if his good deeds outweigh his bad deeds. Like, people don't believe in karma, but I kind of think that it really exists because I see it happening so much. Just like, okay, with you, right? And I'll get this out there. Most people think that the reason why Ryan talks about David Wilcock so much is because Ryan hates David Wilcock. And he's the only one. Ryan is a David Wilcock obsessed. I get that. But what's happening is you don't know the backstory on that. You don't know what Wilcock did to Ryan, and you don't know what's going on. What's really going on, regardless of me, Ryan, Clyde, whoever is out there doing whatever, is the truth always prevails. And it may prevail in a bad way or a good way, but it gets squeezed out in the end. And we all learn from it and we move on. But it's a strange birthing process that happens. And I think all of that has to do with karma and cause and effect.
That's part of the black and white Masonic floor. It's part of the up and down, the positive and negative, the pleasure and pain of life. I think that's what karma is. Karma is a form of duality. It's the pleasure and pain of, for example, I just had a baby. It's the pleasure and pain of things like sex and then childbirth, and things like the joy of a child and then the stress of a child and things of that nature. That's kind of like karma. That's the beauty. But it's also kind of something that's ugly, but not in a negative sense or a positive sense. They're two sides of the same coin.
We're gonna have to get you a dump button, man. You cursed up a storm. You got so mad about your kid. I don't blame you. I'm gonna have to send you a dump button through the mail.
All on that show last week.
Yeah, man. It's your kid. That's totally forgivable. I understand. I've been there before, man. I've been there before.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I did get fired.
I was like, whoa. I just turned it on. I was like, he's getting fired up. But yeah, I get that.
I'm glad you mentioned that Wilcock thing, because I played the clip for you, and then I played it on the show, several clips on the show Friday with my co-host Mike D, where Wilcock, and this is what concerns me, it's not just him, it's people like him who literally they've opened up mystery schools.
Yeah.
That my jaw is on the floor still about that. And then they sell it to you for $300 and something, $333 or something. Well, and then they promise you that he literally promised his audience that they could manifest private jets and yachts. You heard that for yourself.
This is kind of why I'm like reading some of these texts that I always said that I would never talk about on the air, because some of the stuff is profound and you can really cause, in my opinion, energetic things to happen. But there is a text in Revelations that talks about people that fornicated with the whore of Babylon, right? And on her head was mystery. And a lot of people have interpreted that, and I'm still Revelations is a profound text too, but a lot of people have interpreted that as people that mess with mystery schools, period. But if you look at the whole thing, it's people that fornicated with her, right? And people that fornicate, what does that mean? That means you're just using it for your pleasure or your gain, because fornicate doesn't just mean sex in an occult sense. So people that use the mystery schools for their own reasons, power, gain, etc., that's kind of like fornicating. That could be what's really going on. There can't be if you really want to look at this, if ascension is real, let's just say ascension's real, there can't be 45 different schools and ways to ascend. There can't be 800 different truths. When you get down to the base of the mystery of life and the soul, there really can only be one truth if you really think about it. It can be called different things through different languages and through different symbols, but some of the stuff they're talking about and some of the stuff you're going to get, like airplanes and stuff, has absolutely nothing with what I made up the air. Did I make up the airplane, or did they say that for real? They said airplanes. No.
Yeah, he said you can manifest private jets and manifest yachts
like
and
live G6,
like
right?
Billionaire, like a G6. You're flying your G6, Joe. Yeah.
Well, I think that in my opinion, karma will take care of that. But on the other hand, karma kind of works in a way where, like what's happening now, or certain people are calling it out, and things are just going to get called out. And this is why most of you that are smart enough, that have lived long enough, and you're wise enough to know when it comes to things like truth, that eventually, no matter what people do and sell, they're only going to get away with it for so long, and it's going to come out. But on the other hand, you still have to have people like Ryan out there to help. That's how it's always been. What was that pastor's name? I always forget his name, but the news busted him out. What was his name? The guy that was he told his whole arena that God wanted them to have a new jet.
Yeah, that was, I think, Flo Dollar or Flo Dollar.
No, not that one. This one was now Jesse Duplantis, maybe. I forget his name. But the news ran up to him and said, "Did you say that in your preaching that God wanted you to have a new jet?" And he just kind of turned and took off, and I think everything kind of went downhill for that guy after that. But yeah, that's kind of funny.
He could be like Oprah, just handing out private jets, like a gift under the seat for the audience, but everybody gets everybody gets a G6.
Yeah, I got to take a break here, and you guys, I'll continue with this text too as well. Maybe Ryan can pick it apart if he's not busy, but we do got to take a break here, and I don't want you guys to go anywhere because the next one has a little bit to do with astral travel. The next sign, Gemini, and what it corresponds to. We'll be right back.
Lighting the Void Radio.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Israel's Bereshit spacecraft crashed into the moon during an attempted landing on the afternoon of April 11th.
The situation doesn't look good at the moment. We are without the main engine. We're losing height.
The robotic lander built by Space IL and Israel Aerospace Industries was on track to become the first privately funded mission to pull off a soft moon landing. Mission Control lost contact less than 500 feet from the surface. Israel would have become the fourth nation to land on the moon behind the Soviet Union, United States, and China. Bereshit did manage to capture a selfie before crashing about 13 miles above the moon. The lander launched in late February atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Mars remains in NASA's sights, and the agency has announced a goal of 2033 to send astronauts to the red planet. Administrator Jim Bridenstine added that by moving up the moon landing 4 years to 2024, they're able to move up the Mars landing as well.
The moon is a proving ground. It's the best place for us to live and work on another world so that we can ultimately go to Mars.
This announcement from NASA following last month's meeting of the National Space Council, where Vice President Mike Pence announced that it was the goal of the White House to accelerate the timeline. Connect with the news at ParanormalRadio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. If you're just now tuning in with us tonight, we've been discussing some sacred astrology, some of the meanings, some occult meanings. And when I say that, I mean deep stuff written by the alleged, like Ryan said, the so-called Samael, the fifth angel of Mars, that is teaching to his Gnostic disciples what all this stuff means, Yakin and Boaz and all these different passwords, and how it corresponds to the planets and the human body and the tribes of Israel. Deep secrets, allegedly. But this kind of stuff, if you're willing to try it out, there's even prayers in here that it tells you to do, that you could gain certain clairvoyant powers, or it teaches you how to kill your karma. All of this stuff, what I like about it is that there's some practicality to it. It's not just somebody giving you philosophy. They teach you the secrets in this book, and then they tell you to go try it. Now, I haven't tried any of this stuff, but I would be interested to see what happens. Right now, Ryan Gable is with us from the Secret Teachings, and also we have a caller, Catalina's called in. How you doing, Kat? What's on your mind?
Oh, pretty good. Yes, I wanted to share my shamanic journey tonight because I thought it was interesting how I decided to do it, because when I had called in, I don't think it was this month or last month, to Mary DeCino when she was on your show, that she had said that I had a connection to northern France and that I should do some more research on that. And then I just kept putting it off. And then when I saw on the news today, the fire at Notre Dame, I went, oh, I think I should do that. I think I should do the shamanic journey. So I did a shamanic journey to see with my connection. And I've always thought I had a Knights Templar.
Like a past life?
So,
yeah.
Yes, as a Knight Templar. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe that was part of the connection, because I had mentioned that to her too. And so I did the shamanic journey, and the first thing that came up was a black horse, and then it had like all of its bridle, is that what it's called? Like all the things that hook up horse to the saddle.
Yeah.
A lot of that had like silver. It was very silver on it. And then I did see myself on the horse, so I thought, okay, maybe I was a Knight Templar with a black horse. And then I saw it could have been like the coat of arms, but it was the blanket sort of on the horse. They kind of showed it a long time ago. They used to show the coat of arms.
Did you see any actual symbols from the Knights Templar, though?
Well, I saw it was if it was a blanket or coat of arms on the horse hanging, but it was like red and black, and there was some kind of symbol, but I didn't make it out, but it was definitely black and red. And then, of course, the horse had a lot of silver, so I thought, okay, maybe that was like a noble connection. But
it could be, because back in that time, though, if you could have money and be able to buy armor and have all that stuff, or it could be a noble house too. So when you're looking for Templar stuff, and that's the thing too, when you're doing like astral travel and past life or going on vision quests, little bitty stuff like symbols, like little symbols for some reason are hard to interpret, but things like animals and nature and stuff like that, or elements, is easy. It's kind of weird.
Yes. And then I saw this big figure 8 symbol. I don't know what that meant.
Infinity.
And then infinity. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. The infinity. And I wonder how that's connected. And then I wanted to know, where in northern France if I was connected there, you know. And it didn't quite tell me. So after the journey, I looked at my atlas, my world atlas, and I kept looking up there going, okay, where? And then I was kind of led to the kind of the northeast part, and then it said draw a line from there all through Switzerland into Austria, because they all kind of three line up and put a line.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to do some more research about that, but that was it. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'll let Mary know too next time she comes on, and remind me so I'll let her know so she can talk about it.
Yeah, maybe she can interpret it for me, right?
Yeah. Thanks for giving us a call.
Okay.
Good to hear from you.
All right. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, so that's interesting. Kat has visions a lot about stuff like that. Now, Ryan, have you ever had a past life vision or anything?
I you know what? I don't know. I don't think that I have. Have you?
I think I did once, but I could have swore I was just shoveling manure. You know, I don't think I was anybody special.
No, that's actually more believable than people that say they came back reincarnated as a prince, or they are a reincarnation of a prince, a king, a queen, or you know, Edgar Casey.
Or gods. I've had people tell me that they were the reincarnations of Egyptian gods.
Hey, you know, Macron thinks he's Jupiter, so that could play out.
But Templar, I could believe, because there was quite a few of them actually. But now I have had two separate people, and Kat's witnessed this too, who said that they saw me in a Confederate uniform. After the first time I heard it, I was like, well, you're just saying that because I got a Southern accent. But the second person that said it didn't even know the first person, didn't hear it. And that my brother was, and she told me that my brother was my son, like my son in this life. We were brothers in that life. And it's pretty wild stuff. So yeah, I've had some pretty creepy moments with that. But
what were you? Were you just a basic soldier, or were you like?
So I had one person tell me that, because me and my son and my dad are close, right? We're just, because when it comes to the Roops and the male side of the Roop family, we're the last line, other than my cousin Jeremiah, and so we're kind of close. We just are, and I didn't tell anybody this stuff, but the way that I was told was that me and my son were brothers, and we were both in the Confederate Army, and we lost a battle, and that a man came along and kind of knocked us unconscious from the Union Army and hit us in a wagon because we were too young, and he didn't want to see us get killed. And the psychic that was telling me that said that man was my father, and I kind of got in this life, and I didn't even mention my father to him. And I kind of got chills a little bit when they said that, because my dad is really taking care of me and my son in this life in a lot of ways, you know.
That's kind of powerful. That's pretty interesting. You never told me that before.
Yeah, because it's just, when I have experiences like that, I'm just so skeptical about them, even when I feel that they might be real, that I don't really try to mention them too much, because it's, you know, it's kind of hard to believe, right? I mean, I think it could be real.
There are stories that I've told you in private that I've mentioned them on radio once or twice, but, you know, if I really wanted to try to make money off of them or something, I'd talk about them on every show. But despite the fact that I believe that I've had those experiences, that they just sound too unbelievable. And like you and I have talked about off air, I just would rather not talk about it because it seems like it's made up. But, you know, I actually had somebody tell me one time, it was actually the second year that I went to Contact in the Desert. I was hanging out with, it was like Brad Olson, my friend Teresa. She came down from Canada. And I think Clyde stopped by. And we were hanging out at one of the little tiny, they're kind of like little tiny huts there in the desert. And we were just having a conversation. And somebody sat down, and I don't believe this at all. This is kind of like a joke, I thought. But someone told me this, and then they told me later on that conference, later on in the conference, a day or two later, they said, you are the reincarnation of Nikola Tesla.
Oh.
I said, I don't think I'm the reincarnation of Nikola Tesla, but you know what? I don't know. Maybe I am. I like light bulbs, so who knows, man?
If you need to get us some free energy going, that's what needs to happen. You need to be. I mean, everybody's a reincarnation. Look, if we're all connected consciously, like some of these books say that, even what book was I reading the other night that talked Whitley Strieber's Afterlife Revolution, right, where he talked about his wife that was trying to tell him that we were all connected in that realm. So we're all one consciousness, but we're super individual, which is something we can't really understand because we're polar minded. But anybody could be anybody if you think about it that way. It's kind of
yeah.
I think some people might just be picking who the special people are,
Yeah, yes, exactly. I was thinking my son might be a reincarnation of Art Bell because he's infatuated with this Japanese flag I have in my studio. And we know that Art Bell had a fascination with Asian culture, so maybe I think my son is Art Bell. I'm just going to start spreading that now. And I'm Nikola Tesla.
Wow.
And you're just a lonely Confederate officer, Joe.
Yeah. I don't even think I was an officer in that story. But I was going to get into this and interrupt me at any point in time, Ryan, if something catches your fancy here. But right. We're in the sign of Gemini, right? And this is according to Samael Aun Weor, supposedly, allegedly, the incarnated angel of Samael, who says that Gemini corresponds with the tribe of Levi. Everybody knows, for the most part, from the 21st of May to the 20th of June. And it rules the arms, shoulders, lungs, and bronchial system. The metal is azoth. The stone is golden beryl. The perfume is mastic. The plant it corresponds to is honeysuckle. The flower is chrysanthemum. The planet is Mercury. The color is orange and brilliant yellow. The element is air. The keyword is reason. The day is Wednesday, and the angelic ruler is Raphael. And this is how he talks to people, Ryan. He says, "Beloved disciple," this is how he's typing in this book anyways, "having already practiced the exercise of Taurus, we will enter into the brilliant constellation of Gemini. This sign governs the arms, lungs, and legs, and is essentially of a mercurial nature. Gemini is in the house of Mercury. The metal of the sign is azoth. It is the stone of the golden beryl, and the color is yellow. The lords of Mercury are now teaching mankind how to travel in the astral body. Thus, inevitably, the disciple must be concerned with learning how to travel in their astral body. The authentic schools of the mysteries are found in the astral plane, not in the physical plane." Hey, that's funny. Manly P. Hall said the same thing. "This is why it is necessary for the disciple to learn how to separate the astral body from the physical body. It is necessary for the student to learn how to enter into the sanctuaries of inner instruction in order to receive direct instruction from the masters of the Great White Lodge." Oh boy. "The time has arrived for students to learn how to enter those sanctuaries in the astral at will in order to receive direct teachings from the great instructors. The hour has arrived to abandon theories and go directly into what is practical. The lords of Mercury assist all those who ask for help. In the future era, humans will no longer be trapped within their physical body as if in a dungeon. The human body will become a comfortable and luxurious temple. Humans will learn how to leave and enter their physical body anytime they wish." Now, before I continue on that, a lot of that makes sense. Manly P. Hall talked about it. Robert Monroe said that he met beings on another planet that could go in and out of their bodies. And Robert Monroe was the farthest thing from an occultist you'd ever see. Isn't that interesting?
There's something about it that you're losing me on, and I think it's maybe the association that a lot of those things have with some people that have made some outrageous claims about that kind of subject matter. That they've been. I don't doubt that things are channeled. I don't doubt that people do automatic writing, or that they've come into contact with beings. I've had some bizarre experiences. If I was to tell you those experiences, you might think that
I get it.
Completely crazy, right? But there's still something, I don't know, intuitively, there's something about that kind of thing that just makes me cautious, let's say, at the least. Does that make sense?
Well, and another thing, too, is a lot of this stuff is you'll already find in occultism if you dig deep enough. You'll already find all of this stuff, like in certain Rosicrucian texts. If you dig deep enough, it could be him just putting it all together and making it look special, too, But as far as the parallels of what I was talking about with Robert Monroe and Manly P. Hall, that first paragraph actually does correspond pretty well with that.
Yeah.
But this isn't a guy talking about just ascending and getting planes and stuff either. You know, this is all related to the Kabbalah. There's actually an anagram or a picture of the Kabbalah, the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the physical bodies in Malkuth, which if anybody studied occultism, they know that the fourth dimension is the ethereal or vital body. That's something I'm interested in because I know I've been there at least once. And a lot of people, especially, what's his name? David Shoemaker from Thelema talked about the ethereal body, and so did Daskalos. And the rest of it is like astral body, fifth dimension, sixth dimension. And that's what you hear in New Age world. But what it's really been called for a long time is these Kabbalistic names. You know, we just, in the New Age, you'll just hear people say third, fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. And a lot of times when you ask them where that is, they say, well, that's just an awareness or something. You're like, okay. Or you could get a certain crystal that'll take you there. I don't know about all that, you know.
Where do they sell these crystals?
In Arkansas. We've got a whole mine of them here, man. You ought to come down and get some.
That's awesome. I'll come down and get, like Alex Jones talks about the iodine, which is actually a really cool product. I have some of that. He talks about the deep earth crystals. Are these deep earth crystals, Joe?
I guess. But going on here, he says Mercury, and I don't know when this was written. I'd have to look at this, but he said Mercury is presently coming out of a cosmic night, but as time passes, the cosmic effects of the twinkling of Mercury will be felt more intensely. Now, keep in mind, this guy also says that all of the other planets have beings on them. I read that book a long time ago called Cosmic Ships by the same guy who ran into beings that lived on each of these planets, but they take on different bodily forms. He says it is also indispensable for the disciple to learn how to enter through the doors of the cosmic or sidereal temples in the astral body. The main objective of the exercises of Gemini is to learn and how to use and maneuver the astral body. In this sign, we also teach our disciples the secret art of the jinn. Jinn are pretty dangerous from what I've heard. States that will allow them to carry their physical bodies to the most secluded and remote places on earth within moments. We now give various clues in numeric form. And then he goes on into these exercises, Ryan, like lie down on your bed in a horizontal position, relax the body so that no muscle applies pressure on the astral body, become slumberous while pronouncing the mantra Rusty like this. And then he does it like Rusty. Rusty, R-U-S-T-I, but he really drags it out, as in true. Like roosty, not rusty. This mantra is pronounced mentally. In those moments, the student must become a spy of his own sleep. In other words, watch yourself sleep, I guess. In the moment when the student feels himself absorbed within the state of slumber or somnolence, that precedes sleep, he must then get out of the bed and leave the room. How? In what manner must the student leave the room? Let's see what he says here, because I've actually done this. Almost all students suppose that the former exercise is an exercise of magnetism or autosuggestion, but they are mistaken because here we are not dealing with autosuggestion or hypnotism. Just simply get out of bed, for nature will do the rest. Nature will know how to separate the astral body from the physical body. The disciple only needs to stand up and leave his room, and nature will take care of the rest. Already out of the room, the student will take a little hop with the intention of floating in space, and if he floats, he will then be able to transport himself to the Gnostic church in a few seconds. Now, I told you guys I did this once in my life. I don't care if you believe me or not, but I didn't do it out of reading this book. But what he's talking about, just sitting up, that's exactly what I did. But if he does not...
I believe you did that. I trust Joe. I believe that you did do that. So I don't dismiss these kinds of things for what it's worth. I believe that you did do that. I think I've had an experience where I've, on a couple of occasions, begun to leave my body and seen myself sleeping.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go further than that. So I just want people to know that I'm not opposed to that personally. I just think that some people are delusional and they think that if they have a few drinks that they're going to ascend to another plane. And then,
drink some Kool-Aid. Did I lose you, Ryan? Oh, man. Anyways, I did lose him. That's funny. But Yeah, I get what he's saying. It's kind of like certain people think it's easy to do. This was not easy for me to do by any means necessary. It was very far from easy. It took me a lot of times and a lot of practice to try to figure out how to do it. And I only did that once, actually. Everything else has been like a lucid dream or kind of in between the astral realm, so to speak. But anyways, I'll continue. Maybe we'll get Ryan back here in a second. I don't know what happened. So, okay, how must the student leave the room? Boy, we got to take a break. I'm going to hurry up with this. Almost all students suppose that the former exercise is an exercise of magnetism. We already said that. Already out of his room, the student will take a little hop. We already said that. But if he does not float, the disciple must once again get into bed and repeat the experiment. Some succeed immediately. Others take months and even years to learn this. But the tenacious succeed in the end. In an almost imperceptible manner, a keynote always resounds within the brain of every living being. That keynote is that of the ray to which each person belongs and seems to come from... I got you back here. So we're talking about the rays here. Let's see. In an imperceptible manner, keynote always... Okay. That keynote is the ray to which each person belongs and seems to come from the cells of the cerebellum. Some hear the sounds of small flutes of the Egyptian ray. Others will hear the gong of the Oriental ray, and others will hear the roaring of the sea of the lunar ray. Excuse me. Okay. If the disciple silences all his thoughts in the calm of the night, he will hear his keynote. Then he can willingly cause that note to vibrate loudly. And when the note is already so loud that it invades the semi-paralyzed body, the disciple must get out of bed and take himself to the Gnostic church. For the masters of the White Brotherhood will receive him there with an incomparable happiness. If you find yourself dreaming that you are at a certain place and then you awaken, remain still, become sleepy once again, and with your imagination place yourself back into the same dreaming place. When you feel yourself there again, cling to that place of the dream within your willpower as if you're trying to continue the dream, just as it was unfolding. Imagination and willpower united in vibrant harmony is the key to this clue. But while falling asleep, concentrate your imagination and willpower intensely, united in vibrant harmony. On a certain place or location, concentration must be perfect. Then begin walking with faith in the imagined place. You must not imagine that you are imagining, because the experiment will fail. One must really feel oneself at the imagined place and totally forget about the bedroom. This experiment must be done during the state of transition between vigil and sleep. Once at the place, kneel and ask your own internal God to take you to the Holy Gnostic Church, which is the great cathedral of the soul, and the temple in which the solar Logos, our Lord the Christ, officiates. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there because we're 8 minutes way past break here. We'll be right back. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. Don't forget, after the show is over, the Secret Teachings with Brian Gable will be on. Stay with us.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing this journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up, because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in, The Fringe FM.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Tonight we are going through this text called Practical Astrology, which when I started looking at it, I had no idea that it was anything more than just astrology. But according to, the writer, Samael Aun Weor, who also, again, claims that he is the incarnated angel of Samael, this is something totally different. This is like the biggest occult secrets ever, all in one book when it comes to astrology. And we were on Gemini, if I remember correctly, that corresponds to the tribe of Levi. And this is all about a lot having to do with astral travel. So where we left off was he was talking about, how to get to the Gnostic church of the solar logos, or the Lord Christ, or where the Lord Christ officiates. And I'm going to ask Ryan what he thinks about this here in just a second. I want to finish this part, but keep in mind, it says, during ordinary sleep, the soul usually wanders in all those familiar physical places or locations. But this is why While in a state of slumber, the soul is occupied with the same labors and toils of daily life. Therefore, you must become accustomed to asking yourself during your entire routine, even during the day, where am I? Am I within my body or am I out of it? Then you will take a little hop with the intention of floating. It is logical that if you float, it is because you are out of the physical body. However, if you do not float, it is because you are still within the body. Thus, continue within your everyday life these practices. But if you manage to float, ask your innermost to take you to the Holy Gnostic Church. One must question the presence of something which attracts our attention, such as a crowd of people, a funeral procession, a strange object, etc. Why is it attracting your attention? Many have awakened their consciousness with this formidable clue, because upon asking this question, they floated in the air and realized that they were out of the body, and that their body had been left asleep in their bed. This is a formidable clue because the soul wonders because the soul wonders when the body sleeps, but the soul can come out of its unconscious slumber with this clue. During your routine day, you must become accustomed to this exercise so that it be recorded within your subconscious. Then, your subconscious will repeat this exercise during sleep. Before falling asleep in your bed, you will do the following exercise of auto-suggestion. Am I going to sleep? Wherever I appear now will be in the astral plane because I am in the astral body. I will recognize myself. I will recognize myself. I will recognize myself and direct myself to the Gnostic Church. You can do this auto-suggestion for half an hour and then peacefully fall asleep. But once you're in the astral plane, you will mathematically recognize yourself. And at the time of awakening, do not move. Do a retrospective exercise in order to remember where you have been. And then he goes on to this mantra that you're supposed to do. What do you think about this stuff, Ryan? It's pretty wild text, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of people, if they can utilize this and they can have an experience that is positive, then why not try it? I don't see anything wrong or negative in trying to do something like that. Personally, I've had experiences without trying to do those things. I'm not at the moment interested in trying to do that kind of a thing, but I would say that my final comment on it would be that I would encourage other people, if you're interested, to try it. I don't think that it probably could hurt in any way. Just give it a try and see what happens. I know that you've had that experience, Joe. I've had experiences without trying, and it can possibly be, let's go with the word safer, a safer method of kind of exploring things outside the body, exploring the spiritual world without the usage. And I'm not a big proponent of. I'm not criticizing people that do things like hallucinogenic drugs, but I don't see that as a way to become enlightened. I see that as a way to further suppress your soul. I think maybe trying astral projection would be a much more healthier and freeing way of doing that. Those are just my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I understand. And look, again, I'm a big proponent of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not pretending to say that this guy is the true angel. He really is Samael. He could just be purveying secret information and call himself an angel, or it could be an angel. I don't know, but I'm not making that claim. I'm just saying that a lot of what is mentioned in this text is some of the stuff that I've learned after reading a bunch of books, and it's all in one book. And the funny thing is, you would never see this stuff in any astrology book anywhere. All astrology books are about interpreting signs and stuff, not the powers that are related to them and what they correspond to, or how you can astral travel with them or say passwords. I've never read anything like that about astrology. Have you?
No, a lot of the things that you're mentioning, I've had the same experiences that you've had, where I've read other books and I've found a lot of that information in those other books. I'm recalling it as as you're talking. So what you're describing is kind of a compilation of all of that put in one place. It just kind of reminds me of like Shakespeare, where people say that Shakespeare wrote those plays and they're just plays, but then some people say there's like secret information embedded in there. I'm of the belief that Shakespeare didn't write those plays, but regardless of who wrote them, the information that is there, whether it's hidden in symbol and secret code and metaphor and whatever the case might be, it's still there, regardless if Francis Bacon wrote it or if William Shakespeare wrote it. The information is still there. It's kind of like with anything else. It doesn't really necessarily matter if Julian Assange is a rapist or a murderer. The information that was released through his platform still exposes criminal activity, and that's what I think is the most important thing, the quality of the information as opposed to the person who wrote it, let's say.
Yeah, right. And see, he gets into like all of what he just talked about. Now, I've experienced a little bit and I understand. But then he gets into, except for the going to the Gnostic church thing or praying to go to the Gnostic church. I mean, I'd be really careful about when you go into the astral realm, that's just me, what I ask to be sent to. But I mean, if you want to find out the truth, sometimes you got to take some risks, I guess. But then he says, like, put yourself to sleep pronouncing this mantra. And he says, omnis bom igneus. And then he pronounces it like, omnis, and then he really stretches it out, bomb. Everybody knows how to vibrate stuff, igneous, While, I hope everybody does anyways, but I'm not going to do it for you. Sorry. But while syllabicating the mantra, prolong the sound of each vowel and pray to your innermost to take you out of the body, then softly get out of your bed, and while floating in space, go to the Gnostic church. These are the 7 clues to travel in the astral body. When the theurgist, and you and I both know what that means, Ryan, a theurgist is like a ceremonial magician who's trying to ascend into, his higher self. But he says when the theurgist leaves the physical body, he travels to the sidereal temples in the following manner, which is space temples, planets, stars, etc. The astral body begins to walk in concentric circles with the intention of reaching the heart temple of a specific star. Now, that's kind of funny that he says that, too, because there is one of the texts in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, one of the keys, and this could be where Doriel got it from. Maybe he got it from Samael Aun Weor, but he talks about don't go in angles, go in circles. But the panorama of things changes within a few moments. The theurgist is in the presence of the sidereal temple and the guardians of the columns, Jachin and Boaz, or J and B. The theurgist will make the strictly required salutes, as we have taught previously. He will walk the 7 steps inside the heart temple of the star and will then kneel at the feet of the sidereal genie. I don't know about kneeling at the feet of no genies, but if the genie says granted, the disciple asks for the choir. The genie will make a sign, and the army of the word will begin to sing in sacred language to carry out the work of which we have asked. The army of the voice creates with the word. In these sublime moments, we go to ecstasy. All of nature kneels before the sidereal gods, and their ineffable chant elevates us to the pleroma of light. Oh boy, it's getting wild now. This sounds like a bad acid trip too, though, kind of, don't it? I mean, the infinite space is saturated with the most divine and moving melodies, and the waters of the rivers murmur in silence. This is how God is. It is impossible to describe these moments of happiness in which the soul is free. Here, the past and the future harmonize within an eternal now, and then feel the voice of the Blessed One, who from the most profound depths of our being invites us to the eternal wedding. Hence, when the disciple becomes skillful in astrotheurgy, I guess that's what we're doing here, the sidereal gods then accept him as a lay brother and give him a gray-colored robe. All right, we just graduated to Gandalf, and a rod. It is the robe of the esoteric astrologer. It is the ineffable robe of the theurgist. It is the robe of the authentic alchemist. As he progresses in his wisdom, he receives different degrees. Here, the disciple will learn how to combine the most diverse alchemical substances in order to produce different events and the different cosmic planes. One is overwhelmed when contemplating those children genii of the stars, working in the alchemical laboratories of their temples in order to provoke the most diverse events of the physical plane. Samael, the worker of iron, works in the forges of Mars. Within his laboratory of love and the star of Venus, Anael, the genie of love and art, appears as a 12-year-old boy, with blonde hair and rosy cheeks. Mikael, indescribable and ineffable, governs creation from the heart of the sun. Who of you has the courage to descend in such an abyss in the bottom of which the life of the solar system throbs? Do any of you have the courage to attempt this? Raphael, the genie of Mercury, looks like an old man with a long beard, with his face the color of fire. He has the trident of the transforming atoms in his hand, and here, within his temple of Mercury, he resembles a terrific monarch, which causes the cosmic mind to tremble. Who would dare to disobey his sacred orders? Who is the other one in a white robe and white cape, before whom the columns of angels and demons tremble? Behold him in the temple of Jupiter, who gives the secret to the kings and directs the economy of mankind. Here is Zachariel, the genie of Jupiter, before whom tyrants tremble. In the center of the pale moon is the temple of Gabriel, the fisherman. He directs the life of the oceans and the tears of women. Do you want to learn how to make yourself invisible? Then call him night after night, so that he may prepare your body. Make of Gabriel a daily devotion. A well-prepared physical body is the most extraordinary instrument for the exercise of practical magic. A well-prepared body can become invisible. Neither a bullet nor a dagger can enter a well-prepared body. What shall we now... this is getting really wild. What shall we now say about the old man of heaven, the Lord of the law, the old Oriphiel of Saturn? You are the sword of justice which reaches us from heaven, and your hands and the life and then wait, hold on. Oriphiel of Saturn, you are the sword of justice which reaches us from heaven, and your hands is the life and estate of all humans. Listen to me, O disciple. Always choose the planet you are going to work with. Mars is warlike. Venus is amorous. Mercury is wise. Saturn is melancholic and concrete. The moon is motherly. The sun is a leader. Jupiter is lord of high personages. Never enter any of these dwellings without first knocking on the door. Black magicians assault the mansions of heaven. The white magicians first knock on the door. The door of each star is the heart temple. Intruding visitors enter the stars like thieves in someone else's house. The children of light enter through the door of the heart temple. The children of light first ask permission to the Lord of the house in order to visit his abode. The heart temple of a star is the door through which one enters and exits the star. Our earth also has a heart temple. That temple is the abode of the genie of the earth. Visitors from other stars enter and leave through it. Do you know who the genie of the earth is? He is our Lord, the Christ. Our earth is a small, bright star of blue color and belongs to the Milky Way. In my Father's house there are many mansions. John 14:2. Each star of heaven is a mansion, and the door of each heavenly mansion is the heart temple. When, while out of the body, you invoke an inhabitant of another planet, you will see him come out from within the earth. Upon saying goodbye, you will see him sink into the depths of the earth, because he has entered and left through the door of the interior of the earth. You can also invoke your physical body from afar, kneel on the earth, and pray to your innermost being, just like this. Father of mine, bring my physical body. Then your innermost will bring your physical body. Then the atoms of your physical body will tell you, I am your physical body. Don't you know me? You will be astonished when you see your own physical body in sleeping clothes, face to face, the same as if you left it in bed. Then command your physical body as follows. Jump over my head and penetrate through my pineal gland. All right, I'm stopping here. There's like 4 more pages of exercises here. And it goes into like Beelzebub and all kinds of weird stuff. Is this not the wildest thing this has got to be the wildest occult text I've ever read.
I was about to say, it sounds like you're reading a grimoire or some complicated and massive, like Agrippa style book on occultism and magic. There's a ton of stuff that you mentioned there that would warrant a deeper investigation, let's say.
I also know in Masonry, when he was talking about thieves and robbers, right? In Masonry, they ask you, when you learn all of these handshakes and stuff, they ask you, where do Masons reside? And you say at the bottom of hills, at the bottom of valleys, and at the tops of hills. and I forget the whole thing. I used to have it memorized, but the reason why is to keep robbers and thieves out. You know, in these mystery schools on the earth, which Manly P. Hall said that they're really nothing. They're just exoteric places to practice the inner mysteries, which really corresponds to this book, by the way. They have to recite all of this stuff. And I really think they don't know why. And I really think that maybe this book is explaining why. Maybe. That's a hard maybe, but it sure does add up a little bit.
You know, there are a lot of books, Joe, that I've read. I'm sure you feel the same way, and I'm sure that probably everybody listening feels the same way, that despite the fact that you're not exactly sure if you can trust the information that's provided, it still gives you an overview of something that might be useful later on in whatever it is that you're studying, that you're interested in.
You know what I think is also cool, though, real quick, is that he's saying, do you have the guts to try it? Right? Like, you know what I mean? He's like enticing you in this text. Do you have the courage to try this?
That's kind of something different than a lot of the occult books that I've read, where rather than encouraging people to do it, it's almost like you're encouraged not even to start reading the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Usually when people are just trying to sell you black salt, you know, or snake oil, however you want to call it, they're not giving you exercises and stuff and then telling you don't have the guts to try it because they want you to. That's what freaks me out about this text, to be honest with you. Because what if you do this stuff and the next thing you know, you're flipping and flying through stars and meeting genies, and then I got to come back and talk to Ryan Gable, who don't believe in hardly any of the, he's real skeptical, right? For a good reason. What am I supposed to say? All right. Think about somebody that actually, if somebody went through these experiences and had these experiences, nobody's talked about it, not this way. Nobody.
Well, what I'm saying is if I'm talking to a genie, I want my genie to sound like Robin Williams.
Jump over my head. Yeah, right. Exactly. Jump over my head and penetrate through my pineal gland. So at this point, you're staring at your physical body and commanding it to jump through your pineal gland. And then it says your physical body will obey you and you will be with your body in a remote place of the earth. If someone was to enter your room while you were doing this, they wouldn't find you. They would only find your empty bed. This guy's teaching you how to teleport. It is indispensable to take your physical body to the Gnostic church every Friday and Sunday at dawn in order to receive the Gnostic holy union, unction, and flesh and bone. You can also take the physical body from your very bed without the need of invoking it from afar. For this, fall asleep while vocalizing the following mantras. Minya pica frasco. That sounds Spanish. Then slowly get out of your bed, conserving your slumber. Execute a little hop, and if you see yourself inflated and floating, then leave your house and go towards the Gnostic church. The subconscious forces become activated during slumber, and these powerful energies are precisely the ones which allow us to place our physical body within the astral plane. This is what is called the jinn state. The sublime guru, I don't know if I can pronounce this, Hiro Kosha, Master Arnold Crumb Heller, talks to us about the jinn states in the Rosicrucian novel, The Sage Crumb. Heller describes to us how Commander Monterino received a note from Hugir, or servant. Commander Monterino sighed and said, "At last," and then he left the castle of Have you ever heard of this stuff before? I've never read any Rosicrucian text like this. Not saying it don't exist, but
me either.
The castle of Chapultepec, and while going around the path of the mountain of Chapultepec, he whistled many times. A native then led Commander Montenero, to the temple of Chapultepec. The commander asked, "Is this a phenomena of the fourth dimension?" The native answered, "Yes, my commander. The uninitiated are not aware of these things." Thus, with his body in jinn state, he received this initiation. All the works of the renowned Crumb Heller are wells of initiatic wisdom that very few have ever comprehended. Now, in 1951, remaining with us is his son, Parsifal Crumb Heller, who sincerely rejoiced with us when he studied our books entitled The Perfect Matrimony, The Revolution of Beelzebub. Parsifal faithfully followed the wise path of his father. See okay. So this guy's got a whole bunch of other books too. But the most profound initiatic wisdom of the centuries is enclosed in this book, Hirokaka's, God, I hate names like that, Zodiacal Course. Gemini is an air sign that is in the house of Mercury. The lords of Mercury gave human beings the soul, spirit, or Buddhic body. The color of the hierarchies of Mercury is yellow or golden yellow. So he's just repeating the same stuff over again. The twin souls keep meeting each other life after life. Oh, what the hell? Wait a minute. The first woman the man knew in Eden was his twin soul. The twin souls keep meeting each other life after life. Together they came out of Eden, and together they must return. When karma separates them, they suffer the inexpressible. True happiness in marriage can only be possible between two twin souls. When the marriage does not take place with the twin soul, it is a karmic marriage, and one suffers the inexpressible. The natives of Gemini are a strong will, possess great courage, so they're just going into Gemini. And then they go into the exercises of how to lie in your bed and get out of body. And then it goes into Cancer. So we've only went through 3 signs in this book. I don't think I've ever read an astrology book like this. This is not, like somebody saying in the Fringe FM chat, this is not for the faint of heart. It's a lot tamer than some of his others. I did read a bunch of other texts though, when he gets into like what real alchemy is and the Kabbalah, and they go into the runes and some pretty profound stuff there, Ryan. I don't know whoever's writing this. Do what now?
I just said whoever's writing this certainly has an understanding of occultism on a very advanced level.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, in all fairness, when my skeptical mind is looking at this and going, okay, there's some stuff in here, like I've heard of the jinn, I've heard of all of these things he's talking about in separate books. So in all fairness, he could be putting all of this stuff together through a bunch of books and then kind of creating his own thing out of it. However, there are some stuff in here that I've never read before in any occult text. Not to mention this guy's teasing you and asking you if you got the balls to do it. So this is kind of, this is different for sure. I don't know what to say about it, but I do know that the members, I'm going to read the rest of this. You can go read this for yourself, but it's called Practical Astrology by Samael Aun Weor, and that is spelled Samaelaun, and then Weor is Weor. And if you go to the gnosticteachings.org, they have all of his books there. And this guy is like the main, I guess you could say the main teacher of this sect of Gnostic teachings. I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to go through all the signs tonight, but just that alone ought to make you want to read it. And they get into a lot of different things. You got that baby boy with you? Is he still sleeping, Ryan?
Yeah, he's sleeping right here. He's listening to you talk. He likes radio. He really likes radio. He goes right to sleep. Yep.
You know, when I was little, my dad used to turn on those, like he watched Gunsmoke, but he had, he got these tapes from his dad, which had the old Gunsmoke, radio show on it, and he used to play it for me. But my dad also used to make me, like when I got in trouble, he would make me go in my room and shut the door, and then he would force me to read the King James Bible while listening to Alexander Scorby read it aloud. It was the worst thing in the world. I hated it.
You had to read along?
Yeah, I had to read along while Scorby was reading the King James version. Every time I got in trouble, that's what he made me do.
I think it's a better punishment than physically striking your kids. I'm not into that.
Oh, he did that too.
That too.
Yeah, he did that too. Yeah. But
you got a little both worlds.
Yeah, right. But I don't think my father knew that I would ever be going down. Like if I read this to my dad, he wouldn't know what the hell this is. You ever think about that? What our parents taught us religiously or non-religiously? Like at least we're digging in more. At least we're trying to evolve. I don't know if this is real or not, but it is a fascinating text.
What you read what you've been reading, which is, from what I'm understanding, is just a small portion of the overall text. It reminds me of when I read a complicated occult book like Agrippa.
Mm-hmm.
So much information that I even though that book in particular made of 3 other books, the 3 books on occult philosophy, the chapters are really short. Some of them are like a paragraph, but the information is so, I'm not exactly sure what the word would be. I don't really want to say complex, but it's so deep. It has so much meaning and so much significance that the words that are chosen are very specific in conveying multiple meanings in a very short amount of text. And so you have to read it more than once. You have to read it again. You have to go over and read another section, come back and read that section. You have to take notes, highlight things. That's how I do it. And then at some point for me, it just clicks. Oh, that's what was meant. Oh, okay, there's another layer to it. And that's, at the very least, that's the beauty in those kinds of topics and subjects. And you said that I was skeptical of certain things. I am skeptical of certain things.
Yeah.
Just from the point of view that I don't believe everybody who says that they've been contacted by aliens or blue orbs, and I especially don't believe people who say they've been contacted by blue orbs and they need your money. So I'm skeptical of that kind of thing because all of this type of community, research, information, magic, occultism, shamans, ufology is absolutely littered from George Van Tassel to the 21st century with convents and snake oil salesmen. And so that's the skepticism that I think we all need to have, Joe.
I think it's the same thing in the occult, too. I mean, I've talked to a lot of occultists that I think are, I mean, I can't say, well, boy, you're a good magician. Like, how am I supposed to know, right? But as far as their knowledge goes, and I kind of judge by the way, like, how deep is their knowledge and what is the advice they're giving me, right?
Yeah.
And there's been a few that I've really respected. Like even Gordon White is a chaos magician. Well, I'm a member of his site. If you go in there, people ask him questions and you can tell by the advice he's given them, that he's got a heart. He's not just some crazy dude that just, doesn't give a damn about anybody, and he knows his stuff. But he's well articulated and well spoken. So sometimes I have to go back and, when people use big words, Ryan, I get confused. So
yeah, you down the South.
Yeah, I'm dumb. I can't figure it out.
Poor Confederate soldier.
But really, after you read this whole text, the analytical summary of the course is pretty much like when we were talking about Aries, it was teaching about how and in what manner we fill our chalice, which is the brain, or the Christic light, to totally not chastify, but Christify ourselves from our head to our feet. And then that's what he's saying. It is clear the light is the Christonic semen or Christic energy, which is the outcome of the transmutation of sperm into energy. Since mass is always transformed into energy, we began this lesson of Aries teaching that the disciple is totally prohibited from fornicating. There you go. Anybody who don't want to, not fornicate, you're out. The prohibition has its objective, the disciple's accumulation of Christic energy in order to realize himself in depth. It must pass through the 12 zodiacal doors of our organism in order to obtain our Christification. Thus, the first door that our Christonic energy has to pass through after the sexual energies have risen from the genitals is the door of Aries and the head. There, in our brain, our Christic semen is charged with the light of Aries. Then the Christic energy keeps going through the throat, the thymus gland, the heart, etc., under the forces of the zodiacal belt. The course of the seminal current is beautifully described by the Apostle Mark, who took care of our holy Gnostic unction. So he's saying that Mark, the Mark that was in the Bible, was actually a Gnostic. Hello. Well, there's a lot of hidden stuff there. That's pretty wild, man.
Where did you find this text?
I've had this for a while. Back when I was studying Gnosticism, I bought a whole bunch of books on Gnosticism and still haven't gotten to all of them. And I started reading this one today, and I was going to do a show. I actually had a whole show about alien stories, the ones I believed, the ones I didn't, trying to pick them apart and all that stuff. And then as I got into this, started reading it a little bit, I was like, holy hell, some of this stuff is talking about some of the stuff I've been talking about with Robert Monroe and all this other stuff. So I figured, let's just go through a book tonight. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
But in the end, this is still like a belief system, which William Buellman's going to be on the program tomorrow. And he is a fellow, like he's the one that actually helped me get out of body, with his audio lessons. And he's not an occultist or anything like that. He's just able to do this stuff. And when he travels in the astral realm, he talks about it in his books about how he just runs into the different things like this that are just belief systems, but I don't think he's ran into any of this. Like in my mind, there has to be something underlying all of this. There has to be a truth that underlies all of it. And
I think
if you were super gullible, this book would explain all of it. And I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right, but I wouldn't just jump into this and thinking it's 100% right, just out of pure experience, anything like that.
No, or that it's 100% literal. I think that's the last thing that it is literal. I think it's a metaphor and symbol and layers upon layers and upon layers upon layers of it. Just like the Bible and so many other occult texts. It's not necessarily a literal thing. Just like a human sacrifice. A human sacrifice can be the sacrificing of your material body, your animal body, like an animal sacrifice. It doesn't mean that you literally go kill another person. So that's part of the different layer of things in occultism specifically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think he's being a little bit more literal here, though, explaining some of the reasons some of the reasons why the exoteric schools are doing what they do, why they're learning all these passwords and handshakes and all this other stuff is really to, just like Manly P. Hall said in his book, What the Ancient Wisdom Expects from Its Disciples, that the real mystery schools are not on this earth. They're in the astral planes. But he doesn't really go into detail about it like this guy's doing,
I'd agree with you there. Yeah, I think that's more of an exoteric thing. But the rest of it, the other parts that you've read, I think are very esoteric. And there's more than one layer to them. It's not necessarily literal.
Yeah, there's got to be some things the guy can't explain that he's just trying to get you to experience, I think.
It might influence your subconscious, too, and then you understand it without ever really consciously recognizing that you understand it. Rather than reading 2 + 2 = 4, it's written in a way so that you begin to fundamentally understand subconsciously what that information is expressing.
And he definitely does talk about the subconscious in here and how it affects, like all these exercises of how to train your subconscious to go out of the body. That stuff's pretty intelligent, actually. But at the end of the book, he goes into like the history of all this stuff. Talking about the beginning of the 12th century, there was a monk named Norbert who founded an order of religious character in Europe. Before the idea occurred to him, he was a worldly man dedicated to blah, 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 blah. One day he was struck by lightning. He wasn't killed, and his entire being was transformed. And this event did not occur by coincidence or by chance. It was a cosmic event provoked by the gods. Then he goes back in 1889, talks about the Kali Yuga, talks about Lemuria and Atlantis, talks about the pictorial references to the astrology, and goes on and on and on. He just, like in the end of the book, he gives a history lesson for each lesson and each sign and what some of the stuff means too. That's just wild to me because I've read a countless astrology books and they're all about, drawing up a chart and interpreting somebody's symbols and signs and stuff. And it really is a lifelong study. And even Jeff Harmon says you'll never be exact with it. And then this guy in here saying that, there's a reason why they're not exact with it because of certain things that happen. I don't know, man. But I don't know if I'm going to try any of this. I might try a couple of things, he said. But if I start seeing genies and stuff, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. I'm sure your audience would like to know that. I have one last thing before I go because my show, The Secret Teachings, is coming up next.
Sure.
Two things. One, quickly, a shameless plug. my book, Occult Arcana, I'm not an angel, but my book, Occult Arcana, has a tremendous amount of information and correlations that you discussed this evening from that book. It's in that book, Occult Arcana. It's on my website at www.thesecretteachings.info. There's autographed physical copies and then digital copies as well. The other thing is, the last time you were on my show, we did a show called Spirit Wars, and I had several people message me and ask me to do the thing we did at the very end of the show more often. That is name or recommend books that we think people who are interested in these kinds of topics might want to read. And so we did that on that show. Maybe whether it's that book or another book, maybe you could recommend some books for listeners to read. I think people really enjoy that.
I mean, yeah, if you're interested in interpreting symbolism and figuring out, you know, what certain occult things mean, yeah, I would get Ryan's books, right? If you're interested in figuring out like correspondences, I mean, here's the thing: a lot of these guys, like Aleister Crowley, who wrote Liber 777, it's an entire book of planetary and angelic and Hebrew and occult correspondences and all that. He didn't write that. Samael Aun Weor wrote that, and then he just rewrote it, and now everybody thinks Crowley wrote it. I mean, not Samael Aun Weor, excuse me, McGregor Mathers, Samael McGregor Mathers. So, I like, there's some things that you got to read, like you were talking about earlier, the four books of occult philosophy, a little bit of Eliphas Levi. If you just get a good grasp of, like, good roots, you can go from there, and then you can really start understanding some of this stuff and get Ryan's book for sure too. You got to keep it modern too, because I found like if you stay in all of those old books like Arthur Edward Waite and stuff, you'll start kind of losing it. So I'm glad that there's people like you out there that are helping us in a modern way. You know,
when you say losing it, you mean what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, like Arthur Edward Waite, I mean it's almost like he purposefully writes in a way to confuse you, or he's trying to sound smart and pompous, and you can't finish the book. It's not like a novel that's enticing. There's some great information in his text, but it's a pain in the ass to read, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I really like the Mirror of Magic and the Magus. Those are two of my favorite books.
Yeah, and Franz Barden's, they all kind of tap into this stuff their own way. I think the idea of Gnosticism, really, though, and what I'm trying to understand is, when I've talked to people that say that they're Gnostics, I've talked to many people that say they are. Others know a little bit more, but it's all about knowing the truth of the mysteries, not wondering or figuring it out, but really knowing. Again, though, there's still the Abrahamic thing, the angels and demons and stuff. I'm not saying that there's no angels and there's no demons or anything like that, but it still has some type of belief structure behind it that all in all could just be another illusion in the great mystery of things. But I do respect when authors challenge you like this guy has to try something. Try it out and see what happens. Even though you may try it and nothing happens, what if something does? I kind of respect that a little bit. Instead of just somebody giving you their belief on everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, do you know of a woman named Mary Atwood?
I think so, yeah, I've heard of that. Mary Atwood. Where have I heard that before? I know I have.
I might have mentioned the name to you before. I just found a book she wrote called Hermetic Mystery. And as you know, there really aren't a lot of, at least famous women. You know, people know Blavatsky. There really aren't a lot of famous women who have authored books about these kinds of topics, and she's one of them. And I found that book very complicated, kind of like reading Eliphas Levi, but just a different author. I think people might want to have a look at that as well. Mary Atwood, Hermetic Mystery, and that's a very well-written book on these subjects as well. I mean, there really are so many options, and you can read a variety of different books and derive your own interpretation, and, you know, people make their own rituals, their own, they make it their own, and that's kind of the beauty of magic. That's kind of the beauty of being open to all possibilities and being truly skeptical You have your own experiences. You can make it your own thing. To me, that's a beautiful thing. As long as you have an understanding of the core and your intentionality, then you can really derive information from unlimited sources, being able to discern what is possibly accurate and possibly not accurate, if that makes any sense. That's just my proverbial 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. And always remember, guys, like when you catch, this is the only philosophy I have, I kind of stole from what Whitley said is, beliefs are walls and questions are doorways. And that's about it. If you start becoming to where you give into reality too much and you start developing a very strong belief in something, then you've closed yourself off to anything outside that belief, which could be keeping you from the ultimate truth, unless you have found the ultimate truth of the mysteries, to which I have never met a man or read about a man other than maybe Christ himself, which we still don't know. That's kind of a mystery, that knows about the truth of the mysteries. So when people come to me and they talk about the fourth dimension, this alien, all these different races, and they know all this stuff, that's I start putting up, like, I guess you could say, walls, because it's hard for me to believe in somebody that knows everything, right? So, yeah, just be open-minded to some of this stuff.
I had somebody today, I saw someone post something on Facebook about Julian Assange, and they said, was he taken down by the cabal or was he rescued by the Alliance? I just had a comment. I said neither, because they're just concepts. They don't really exist. It's not an organization. It's like the Illuminati. It was a secret society out of Bavaria, but it's just an idea. It's a concept. It's a symbol. It's not necessarily like some sinister group, right? And somebody wrote back and said, well, you don't know what you're talking about. The cabal's real. The Alliance is real. I said, okay, so what proof do you have?
That's what they always come back with. Go look. You don't know what you're talking about. Your head's buried in the sand, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna love this next part that this next message they posted. I said, can you show me some proof? Otherwise, it just seems like delusional ramblings. And they brought up something about Q as well. And I said, I think Q is an SOCI. It's a self-organizing collective intelligence. It's artificial intelligence. It's CIA. Their InQtel conference, IBM, the Q quantum computer. And they responded by telling me that they can't show me their proof because and this is just some random person on Facebook, they have contacts that they can't share with me. So
here we go with they've got contact. Oh my gosh, man. That's an old formula. That's got to be getting old to y'all, right? I've got insiders and contacts. Get out of here.
I've got some insiders too, and they tell me your insiders are lying. So there you go.
It's like when you get to the flat earthers and you're trying to get them to talk. There are some people that can argue to the bone with that, but for the most part, they're just like, look it up, man. Look it up. Well, you're here. You tell me about it. If you know it all, tell me about it. I want to know.
Especially you want to recruit me to your gang, give me a pitch.
But I will. I might try a couple of these things, and if I just don't know what he's talking about when he says pray to God to send me to the Holy Gnostic Church, if I do that, I will tell you what happened. But hopefully, I won't be damning my soul. And I think this is kind of why, like, a lot of people are afraid to read anything occult, or because then they might get tempted to practice it, and the next thing you know, they've been duped into going to hell or something. And I just, I think for the most part, that's a bunch of BS. It's just an experience. You probably aren't going to go to hell. And if you pass away in your sleep, then you pass away in your sleep. Whatever. I'm just tired of being afraid. Being afraid of things is the entire problem. Blaming things like the cabal and the Illuminati and all this other stuff. It's the reason why we're enslaved, because of that mentality.
All the Muslims burned down Notre Dame, and then the Christians, oh my God, it's awful. And then the Muslims, the Christians burned down Al-Aqsa. Why are we going to fight about everything?
Because it's fun to them.
Yeah, it is. It's tribalism. It's territorialism. It's gang cult mentality. I don't know. I think maybe the way to conclude the show tonight is with what you just said. Try some of those things. If they work, they work.
Yeah.
I know that you've told me off air there are a lot of things that you understand about magic, and I as well, and
Right.
I don't practice magic, especially
Right.
things that really are powerful black tools.
All right. I got like 20 seconds, so don't forget that this show is produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcast or syndicated without written permission, and music was by Chronox, Bundy, Kevin MacLeod, and Space Station. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on. Good night.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there! This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that
stuff. Please don't jive me, don't you play me cheap. The day you do, they'll plant you 6 feet deep. Don't fool with me, don't fool with me. If you love me like you say you do, you won't have me, a dozen others too. Don't fool with me, don't fool with me.